Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Let's Talk RV GCR in the Great Shift with Deb and Sean. Tonight is episode 5. After the GCR and RV exchanges, what's the plan? Our host, Deborah Peach, will not be on the call tonight. She's in the air as we speak on her way home to Australia to celebrate New Year's with her beloved husband, Scott. So I'd like to introduce our host, our full-time host this evening, formerly known as Awaken 3D, Mr. Sean Michael. Okay, Sean, can you hear me?
Yes. Am I there now?
There we go.
All right.
Good evening and welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, I had some phone issues. It seemed to have had me on mute. I could hear you, but nobody could hear me, so I called back in. So.
Perfect. We're all set. The queue is filling up. They're lining up for Q&A.
All right. Well, we're probably going to get the Q&A pretty quickly tonight, so I imagine there's going to be a pretty good discussion around the topics we have here. I just want to try one more time my headset to see if you can hear me, because then I can, get on the keyboard and be on the PC and talk at the same time. Hold on. All right. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Sounds good. Take it away.
Okay, welcome everyone. Thanks for being on the call. I realize we're right in between Christmas and New Year's, so a lot of people are still out and about, traveling and doing what they do this time of year. So it's great that you could be here and join us for this important discussion this evening. And also, what I probably will do is let's just kind of do a quick update on what's transpired over the last week since our last call on Sunday. And for those of you that are not on our community site, the New Earth community site yet, I guess the bottom line is not much has changed since last Sunday. There were definite activities. It's no secret now, and I do not give out confidential information that I might have that's not out there in some form or manner, either in other kind of like GCR sites on the internet and that type of thing. Usually the word I have so I can talk about things, or if it's gotten out there already, then I can usually expand on that, which provides some more details and background. Other information I appreciate if everyone understands. I can't answer certain questions as they may compromise either sources or myself in this process. So last week we discussed that the process is absolutely happening. And what do I mean by the process? I'm a stickler for details. We've all heard many things over this past weeks. It's happening tomorrow. The December 23rd looks great for things to happen. All right, there's been a lot of that out there over the past week, and it's all true. But the question that many of you have and that I receive many times is, well, when the dates that are called out for it to happen or something big to happen come and go, and yet we do not have, when I say we, I mean folks in the G64 group or the internet group, what I call Greater Dinar Land, which are the people that actually pay attention and are looking at the various Dinar Land information sites on the web and participating in other conference calls on this subject matter. Dates come and dates go, and then there's the usual emotional drawbacks from, okay, why didn't it happen? So I'm a stickler for details, and as I try to explain in various places, when you get the word that it looks good to go down tonight, what does the word it mean? All right. Many times some of the information that's disseminated out within Dinar Land and the communities and the various chat sites and conference boards are pieces of information that the poster, the person who put that information out, receives, and either they have more information than they're saying, or they only receive that she's saying it looks good for things to go down tonight or tomorrow or by the 23rd or by the 24th or even on Christmas Day or these types of things. And I always ask the question, what is it? What is that something that's happening? Because as I've been saying many, many times, this is a process. It's a logistical chain. It's like a supply chain. If you know what a supply chain is, a retail store, what brings all the goods that are and wares that are in the store. If you knew what goes on behind the scenes to get those items on the shelves at the store, all the way back to the actual company that manufactures those goods, that's called a logistical supply chain. Now, we can use the logistical supply chain of a retail store and its suppliers, much like what is going on right now within the REE GCR. The ultimate end of that logistical supply chain is us receiving the notifications and going in to make appointments for the G64 or the Wells Fargo group or the Internet group. They're all pretty much similar at that level. And that's really what matters to us. So many people do not want to know about the supply chain, or when certain of us kind of information gatherers use the term, we're in the logistical phase, or logistics take a little time. That's what we're talking about. And in this case, there are multiple, for those that read messages from people like Zap, or listen to the Lambda China Global conference calls, or listen to other conference calls, we hear things referred to as the matrix funds, or the world global settlement accounts, or the trust for humanity, or the humanitarian trust fund. All of these are, think of them as very large buckets of money, of valuable currencies, right? Just money. So they're very large buckets, and then there are spigots or faucets around each of these buckets, these very, very large buckets, and they have to be opened, and they fill other buckets that are somewhat smaller. And then on those buckets, there are more faucets that get opened up and fill even smaller buckets. And the smallest bucket is the one that we all care about. That's the one that represents our bank account when we exchange our currencies, or redeem our currencies, or become redeemed for our historical bond, loose bonds, if you're into that area of this global reset, financial reset. That last bucket that gets filled, envision that as your bank account, your personal bank account, or your entity bank account, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And the logistical process that we're in right now is exactly the faucets being opened from the larger buckets, the largest of the large buckets, down to the large buckets, then down to the medium-sized buckets, and then down to the small buckets, which is all of us. And that doesn't happen. There is no metaphorical big button that somebody somewhere in the mysterious realms of the global currency reset, there's no big red button that somebody just pushes and instantaneously all this happens. Anyone who's familiar with banking infrastructure and banking processes understands that when money is transferred from throughout the banking infrastructure, when it goes from bank to bank, there are other banks involved, intermediary banks, then they go to another bank, and then it goes into your account type of thing. And even today, if you were to wire $25,000 to another person's bank account, it's going to take a couple of days. It is not instantaneous. If it goes from one bank to a different separate bank. It's shorter if it's just an intra-bank transfer, meaning whoever you're sending money to has an account at the same bank. That's pretty much same day type of thing. If you get it done before, say, 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning, it's usually executed. Now, extrapolate that out to something much bigger. We're not talking about wiring $1,000 from one bank to another. You know, you're literally talking about, I safely use the word trillions and trillions of dollars, but it could be quadrillions if you take into account all the money that's required to back our current fiat currencies, which are the currencies that are backed with nothing, the ones we have today. And we've talked about the fiat currency system being dismantled in a previous show at great depth. If you want to know more about that, go back and listen to, I think it's either show 2 or show 3, dismantling the fiat system. So we're in that logistical process, and when very large amounts of money have to go from the big buckets, the huge buckets, down to the medium-sized buckets, there are many, many signatures required by the very top levels of each bank, each region of the bank, everybody. It's called covering your you-know-what. That has to be checked and rechecked, and we want that because that is part of the security process, that these funds get to where they eventually matter to us, and that's into our individual bank accounts for our currency exchanges. And we are in the midst of that process right now. There is an order to this, as we've talked about many times. It starts with what are called the high-level groups. The very, very, very large buckets are the sovereign level type of things. Actually goes higher than that to the trustees and the managers, if you will, of the World Global Settlement Funds, the Matrix Funds, and we've talked about this in past shows as well, where they come from, the historical gold and the assets that have been collected throughout the centuries, which are always intended for humanity, and we just happen to be today in the time when finally those funds, those gold assets are going for a massive humanitarian fund to free us all from the fiat debt system. So we're in that process. It does take some time, but the key is we're not waiting for it to start anymore. It has started, and not have to take my word for it. I always suggest doing your homework. I always suggest doing research, and you don't have to go very far for you to see on many of the boards and many of the other Intel-like sites. I think just about every single person that has one of these sites is telling you right now that we are in the process. It started a week, 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, and it's slowly making its way down through that logistical bucket of funds change, and it will ultimately end up, depending on which group you're in and which level, and for most of us here, if not all of us, but most of us are in what we would call the internet groups, which includes different areas like G64, like Wells Fargo, like I'll just say it, leave it at that. And that is the last level, and it's not last because that's a non-important level or it's got far less interest or importance in this scheme. Actually, it's one of the most important because it's going to reach the most people at that level. But that's exactly why it is the last level of the funding logistical chain, because at the bottom of that logistical chain is where the most people are. And the logistics in that side requires exchange centers to be fully manned, security to be on call to make sure you're safe when you bring your currency in and you do your business. So it requires a lot of manpower and a lot of expense, and there are many exchange centers that we've all heard of all across the United States, and there are others in other countries. So that's the last step because it's the biggest step. It involves the most number of people by far. The higher groups, the groups that are above the internet group level, are pretty much, they're smaller groups. They have larger amounts of currency, and some of them have already sent their currencies in, that type of thing. Others are holding their currency, but they're in that group and they've already been tabulated, and the amounts of currency are known, and they'll do that. It's just simply a matter of efficiency, in my opinion. I'm not one of the planners or architects of the GCR, but it makes complete sense to me and to several others that I confer with, that the way this process is unfolding is simply which currencies can we get done the quickest. So that would be the more organized, higher level groups where more information is known up front, and it's simply a matter of conducting the transactions and that type of thing. And then at the end, where the internet group is, very, very large numbers of people that all have to go and get appointments, and that's the biggest transfer at that point into each of the individual accounts. All right, so that's where we are. To the best of my knowledge, the process took a break over Christmas, which is exactly as I reported it would probably go down, even as long as 2 weeks ago. I was not popular when I stated that I do not see much possibility that the final groups would go before Christmas, in spite of lots of information out there saying it's going to go down on the 23rd, it's going to go down on the 24th, we're going to go through Christmas, that type of thing. Well, here we all are. So the process, I'm expecting the process to, from my information, re-engage in a very active manner starting tomorrow, Monday. It's still at what I would call the higher group level, and those will execute and get to their completion. And about the time of the completion or shortly after the completion, I do not know how many mid-level groups are out there and how many people are in them, but we expect that to be in earnest this week. And that's, if you go out and do your research and you look at the other boards, that's all kind of corroborating that fact. I believe even Gap said tonight we're in the middle of it, so right in the middle. So everyone have patience, take heart, as I say. We're not waiting for the process to start. It has started, and now we're just waiting for, we're in a store, a retail store, they ordered something, and we're waiting for it to arrive at the store so we can pick it up. That's pretty much the best analogy I can give. So that brings us to today. I expect it to be a very active week, and I'm very optimistic that things are going to go pretty quickly. Then we hit another holiday in a weekend, New Year's Day on Friday. Banks are not open. Could they open for this event? They could. Nobody knows. That's one of the closely kept secrets. But certainly I would expect that shortly in the new year, the first few weeks of the new year, the rest of this will be, flowing nicely. And all of this is what I call the private side of the GCR exchanges. I firmly believe, and I will continue to maintain this belief, we are all a private group. We're just at different levels, depending on where we got in, who we knew, how we got in, that type of thing. But even at the smallest or the last level, which is the greatest number of people, I firmly believe these are all private transactions, which is why we're getting appointments, right? If it was public, then we'd just be able to call up anywhere and go in and exchange our currencies and that type of thing, but that's not going to be the case. And in my book, by definition, that's a private transaction. So, and then we wait for the public. And the public part is really about the announcements of gold-backed currencies, the announcements of changes in the banking system, even potentially announcements around changes within government and things of that nature here in the U.S., what's been called the Republic. And that's where the fun really gets going. And we'll talk more about that in later shows. So that's pretty much my update. And now I'd like to move on to our topic of this evening, which is specifically, it's not too soon to start thinking about what you're going to do after you do the exchange. Many of us, I'm happy to know, are, I would say, a vast majority of people in the GCR who are invested with currencies all plan on some level of pay-it-forward activities, humanitarian projects on many different levels and many different activities, be it from orphans to veterans to building infrastructure to rejuvenating small town or medium-sized town economies, and on and on and on, providing water, food, improving our agriculture system, getting away from the dependence on the pharmaceutical companies who have no interest in curing our disease, only in treating them so that we're a constant bank account for them. And getting in other topics like desalinating water and new technologies, be it free energy or highly efficient energy that gets us off of the fossil fuel system, oil, coal, natural gas, you name it, medical breakthroughs, all kinds of things. And this is to be commended to all of you out there that are going to do this. But what I found in my interaction, I speak to many people every week and receive many emails and posts on the site that I'm on and private messages and whatnot. A lot of people are still, they want to do some things, but they're not really sure how to do it. They're not really sure what's the best way. Many are asking questions about what do I do with this money when I have it, in terms of should I put it into a trust? Should I have a trust now before I exchange? Should I put it into, even if I can't afford to do a trust before the exchange, should I take the time and effort to set up a trust? I want to do a charitable foundation. Some people want to start companies and operate from there. So it's not too soon to start discussing this, and then how to even engage with the various humanitarian projects or efforts or pay it forwards that we're all planning on doing. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. The bottom line is I'll take your questions coming up real soon here on all of these topics, but one thing I wanted to say before we open up the phone lines is it's, in my opinion, it's very good to take some time right now and over these next few days, over the holidays and search, do some soul searching, as we would say, and what are you passionate about? If you wanted to engage in a humanitarian activity, pay it forward activity, what really resonates with your heart? Let your heart lead you to that. What's your heart's desire? I actually like that's the best way to phrase it. What's your heart desire? It's like if you could wake up every day and go to a job that you absolutely love, you don't even think you're going to work. You love what you do, right? What is that? And there is your answer to how to begin focusing on your post-GCR, after your exchange type of activity. It's perfectly okay to follow what you feel you can do, but many people are thinking I can just spread the money around to all these different areas. Like I'll put some money in free energy to some people that have that going. I can put some money into new agricultural technologies that grow healthy food much quicker and in areas that it normally doesn't grow today. With those technologies, I can pump it into desalination projects. I can help charities. What I would suggest is because there are so many people that are going to benefit from the coming exchanges, that pretty much all of these areas are going to be helped. So it's not like any of us have to worry that if I don't do something with orphans, it's not going to help. But if helping orphans or helping veterans is something that's deeply passionate with you or resonating, then I would focus on that. If you don't understand anything about free technologies, and I can tell you right now, I know this for a fact, some free technologies are free energy technologies are not nearly as developed as they would lead you to believe. Some are and some are not. If you are not technically aware of how these work, or if you don't have a technical background in electromechanics or even rodent coils or field energy generators, if it's all mumbo-jumbo to you, probably you should not try to be directly involved in that, because the folks that are maybe not so far along or maybe not so integrity-minded will be happy to take your money and then produce nothing that really works in the end. And I believe if we're going to take the time on changing this world and creating the new earth, as Deb and I talk about so frequently, and being a proactive, engaged part of this shift to the new earth, where we move from greed-driven activities or debt, slavery, and a place of lack and a place of survival mode. We want to transition that, find the things that resonate with you, that maybe you know something about, or something that you can directly oversee and see the results without having to just put your money with someone that you hope can do what they say they can do. So with that in mind, the site that Deb and I have set up and we continue to build, which we talk about quite a bit, New Earth Global Community.com. We are a very proactive site. We are going to begin a campaign where we call it a no lurking zone or a no lurker zone. We want everyone who's registered on that site to begin to participate. And as a matter of fact, when everybody signed up and registered for the site, we asked 3 questions. And those 3 questions are kind of like your commitment to engage, right? And you had to say yes to those questions to become a member. And so now we will begin to move forward with that commitment. And we're going to set up various areas where people can identify with types of projects or humanitarian efforts that resonate with them. And our goal is to be a conduit. Again, we're all about bridges from the old to the new, from the feeling or from the status of lack and survival mode to the status of wealth and abundance and proactivity in creating the new earth. We are the ones we've been waiting for. So the site has really always been conceptualized and set up to be a community, and a community that will begin proactive activities and engagement to bridge the old to the new. And in that theme and that mission statement, if you will, we are this week going to start opening up sections on that site that allow people to start moving and identifying, hey, I kind of like free energy area. I know something about that, or at least I'm an electrical engineer, or I've got a strong technical background, or orphans or agriculture or that type of thing. And we will begin to bridge the gap and bring other people in that are actually working in those areas. And again, this is all about community, and we take the word community very seriously, where we will interact and engage in taking definitive steps to move in that direction so that we have a resource if we choose to do that. If we want to know more about certain areas, we'll be able to find people on our site. Now, there are other sites doing something similar. Certainly there are humanitarian project sites out there, and they're all fine. But we're going to do our thing as well, because I believe there's no shortage, no lack there where in the number of projects that need to be handled. And quite frankly, many people are asking, I want to help, but I want to make sure it's the best help and the most effective help. Where can I go to even start doing that? And that's what we're going to be doing on our site, and we're starting that as we speak. All right, so that kind of prefaces the topics in the show. Of course, this is open to any topic and discussion around the GCR. All are welcome. So, Jennifer, why don't we move to the phones?
Okay, Sean. Great job. We only have 4 people in the queue so far, so anyone who would like to ask a question, please star 6 on your phone.
Okay. Right.
You'll automatically be added.
Don't be afraid to ask questions, folks.
He doesn't bite very hard. Okay, we'll put it that way. Our first caller is from area code 240. Please give us your first name. 240. Hello?
240.
Okay,
Maybe
we'll go back.
Yeah, we'll come back. Maybe they're muted. Yeah.
Okay. Area code 484.
Hey, Sean.
Hello, 484.
Hey, Sean. How you doing?
Good.
It's Lawrence from Pennsylvania. I had two questions for you.
Okay.
First question, I've been trying to figure out what's the real difference between a currency RV and a currency doing the GCR.
Okay. Can you expand on that a little bit? Meaning,
I know that Iraq is RVing, and I'm pretty sure that Iran is RVing, but I wasn't sure the rest of them were just being a reset.
Okay. So the GCR specifically, actually, maybe Jennifer, I'm getting a strong feedback. Maybe we'll mute Lawrence for a minute.
Just a second. Okay.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay,
Okay, go ahead.
All right, so Lawrence, the GCR Global Currency Reset basically means that the vast majority of the currencies around the world are going to move to asset backing. The larger currencies, the bigger currencies like the G8, whatever, gold-backed for the most part. And there will be other assets, and then the other currencies may be gold-backed completely, the smaller national currencies, because they're not part of they don't have the distribution or the holdings in the reserves as do the dollar, the euro, the British pound, the yen, and so on. So it just means that all currencies will be moving to values relative against the assets that back them on a national or a sovereign basis. I like to use the word sovereign rather than national. So that's the GCR, so that will all move. And now that will cause currencies to change. Now the RV just means that as a result of going to an asset-backed system, the value of these currencies will revalue. So the current value they are today under a fiat system will change relative to the assets, the natural resources, and the amount of precious metals that these countries hold in their sovereign treasuries that back the actual currencies associated with that sovereign nation. So does that answer the question between the RV and the currency and a GCR currency?
Yeah, it definitely does. It makes it a lot clearer. So basically all the currencies that are been devalued, such as the Zim and the Dong, and are all going to turn around and go to a fair value based upon what the country's assets are actually, in the country.
Yes, and I will further go and hopefully not complicate this too much by saying the reason that we are going to get such a high delta or a high rate on these currencies is through a system called forward rate agreements. And that's basically where the current value of the U.S. dollar will be forward rated against the asset-backed value of the currencies that we hold, which will generate the high rate, or the delta, as I call it, the difference between each rate. I'm still maintaining my belief that when this all goes public and the U.S. dollar is gold-backed publicly, I believe you'll see the U.S. dollar RV as well, and it will no longer be the big difference in those two in the currencies that we hold. But on a private basis, all of us that are here on the call or watching on the boards get invited to do the exchanges. We will be exchanged on what's called in the financial industry a forward rate agreement, which locks us in. It's almost like, I don't even want to use options as an example, but we're locked into a specific range of rates based on the future value of a currency when it all goes public, and we're going to be able to exchange on that forward rate agreement. And I get into dangerous territory when I say this because people get angry with me, actually. I get a large amount of hate mail sometimes. But when the public announcements come around, I believe, based on the information I have and the pieces of the puzzle I've been able to put together, that you're not going to be able to take advantage of these kind of high rates on, say, a public vehicle like Forex. That's my belief. I could be wrong. I may be wrong, but it's something to think about. My main rationale point for stating that these high changes in rates won't be available to the vast public venues like Forex is simply because I can't see how the architects of the global currency reset are going to allow the hedge funds and others that trade all the time and make millions on just a few penny changes in a euro versus a dollar or whatever. I can't see how they're going to be allowed to make literally trillions of dollars if they're betting on the Iraqi dinar and it all of a sudden increases 100,000%. Right? I mean, to me, those hedge funds are kind of on the nefarious side, the bad guy side, and I can't see how the global currency architects are going to allow that kind of money to be made, in that venue, which actually I believe the financial reset is going to, stop that kind of activity from happening. So it's just food for thought. I believe that the private side, which all of us are in because we're paying attention and we're engaged with it, we'll know about the invites to do the different exchanges, and it's a private exchange. And then later when the public hears about it, those high rates, I believe, against an asset-backed, gold-backed U.S. dollar, the USN, will not be those large differences. Anything else, Lawrence?
So what you're saying is basically once this happens, the Forex will pretty much stabilize, and then it'll probably, for people that invest in the Forex, it won't be as strong for them because everything's going to stabilize. What kind of window are we going to have? Meaning, I imagine this is going to happen pretty quick before it goes to the public side. For me, like I have some currencies that haven't come in, and I was told that once this happens, I need to go in. So if I go in to the bank and exchange most of what I have, and then I still have some things that are taking their sweet time to come in the mail, will I be allowed to finish going back at a later time, or is there going to be some kind of a cap or something?
I wouldn't throw that into what's called a cap. What I would do is I can say nobody knows the details of what exactly will be allowed and not allowed, such as the situation you just brought up. However, what I always say is, go in there, engage your heart, engage your brain, find the balance, don't get emotional, and you just simply say, here's my appointment. When you have your appointment, they ask you how much you have. Give them the amount that you have in your hand and the amount that you have that hasn't arrived yet, but it's in transit, right? And then go into the appointment and bring the receipt, the purchase order confirmation from wherever you bought the currency from, and say, here's what I've got, and here is what's going to arrive tomorrow or the next day or whenever, and ask them, what should I do with this? And they could give you a placeholder. I don't know, right? Or they may say you can make another appointment. Or they might say, I don't know. But I certainly, you see my point, you should ask and say, this is my situation. And my guess is they want to accommodate people. This is not like an evil thing that's going on, right? This is a humanitarian project. That's what this whole thing is. And so my guess is that they will try to be as accommodating as possible, but they may have certain rules that they can't get around. If there is the contract rate that's available, you may or may not be able to get the contract rate to the amount that's not come in yet, that you haven't received yet, but you may get an appointment to exchange it at the regular rate. It's just, that's all I can speculate on, but I don't know the actual, I don't have the rules of engagement for the exchange offices.
Yeah, that helps a lot. I guess the reason being is I think one of the sites had actually talked about, I think it might have been on the big call, somebody had asked and said, well, we always thought that an indicator was going to be that when you go to eBay, all the places were going to stop selling it, and we knew it was going to happen. And they said, well, that won't happen because then that would be too much of an indicator that it's actually going to happen. So he said they'll keep selling it even after it happens. And, I imagine that eventually when it goes to the public side, all that will actually stop.
Yes, on the public. I believe the two scenarios with the currency dealers, when the private exchanges reach down, I can tell you right now, information that I have is that the last thing that the architects of the plan want to be allowed to happen is double dipping. That's just not in the plan, right? So if we accept that as an accurate assumption, and then we have to say, well, they must plan on getting all these private side groups done pretty quickly before they do something with the currency dealers. Because if let's say somebody at a high level private placement group exchanges this coming week, but then there's another 3 weeks to go for the whole process to complete, what's to stop a high level guy who just exchanged from going out and buying a ton more currency, right? And then going in, doing a normal exchange on an appointment. So the information I have is that, the double dipping thing is absolutely something that they're doing everything to prevent, right? So that means, if that's true, they're going to get through these groups really quickly, and they're all going to go, in a pretty set period of time, even to the point where calculating the logistics and how long, because, a high-level group can exchange, but it's still going to be some number of days before each individual member has access to their funds, because it has to be then transferred down to the individual accounts, and that takes a couple of days. So in the meantime, they could start the G64, and kind of everybody gets access to the funds right around the same number of days, and simultaneously when they release the internet group to start making appointments, all dealers are told to stop selling certain currencies, right? I don't think they'll change the rates. I think they'll stop selling. And by that time, everybody already knows it's happening because you're getting the appointments and that type of thing. So there's no real advanced clue coming from the currency dealers that sell the dinar and whatnot. And they won't change the rates, or they might change the rates depending on if you have an account with them or not. But, at that point, it also cuts off the general public who might learn later that this is going down, because now the rates on the currencies will be kind of like the higher amounts. It's kind of like a spaghetti bowl, and it's really hard to predict exactly how it's going to go down. I'm kind of like a puzzle piecer, and I like to put all these things in my critical thinking and say, okay, if they did this, what would that do? And if they did that, what would that do? And does that achieve the goal? And these kinds of things. So I just got to believe that no matter what happens, they're going to execute all the funds transfers pretty close to the same time, all the way down the line. And then by the time it gets out, or the public announcement happened, all the changes have already happened, and so there's really no new opportunity to buy, the currencies we all hold right now at the low rates. Everything's going to be equalized with that.
Okay. So one other question would be just one of the groups that talked about that the other sleeper currency. There's another sleeper currency out there, which I kind of figured out is probably the Irani currency, and that's supposed to go maybe a week or two after the Iraq currency. So it was suggested that that's going to be on the second basket. So typically, if you went in to do an exchange and you didn't have the Iran currency the first time and you happened to purchase some for the second time, you might be able to still do that because that's going to happen later. Is that true, or is that double dipping?
I believe double dipping by definition, and this is my definition, right? Double dipping is you exchange a currency like the Vietnamese dong, and then you turn around and buy more Vietnamese dong with the same, with the proceeds. That's double dipping. You're buying more of the same currency. But if you exchange and now you're going to go out and buy Mongolian or Iranian or some of these others, or Mexican pesos, Argentinian, Brazilian, type of things, I don't believe that's double dipping. It doesn't hold up to my definition. It just means you're being a speculative investor and you're purchasing other assets with the proceeds of a previous asset type of thing. However, there may be some rules put in there. I don't know. There's lots of talk around dinar land about this. If you're going to try to buy second basket or third basket currencies, you may have to register yourself as a currency dealer, and you'll have to buy a lot of it. You'll have to have money to buy a lot of it. That makes sense to me because if you've done an exchange, you've got a lot of money, and you can do that, and you're going to be able to do that. But what it also locks out is, we all have friends that don't believe in any of this stuff that we're talking about, right? Like I've got 3 friends that continue to call me crazy because I've got this dinar and I've got this zim, all of these things. However, if I actually exchange, and even though I have signed an NDA when I exchange and I can't tell them that I actually exchange those currencies, so they're going to see that I suddenly have money, and they're going to put 2 and 2 together, and they're going to want to go out and buy some currencies. And my guess is this block is going to, you're going to have to buy a large amount in order to play the currency market, so to speak. That's going to block a whole new generation of people from going in and speculating on second basket and third basket, because you're going to have a decent amount of money to get in, to purchase these other currencies. I don't know. I can argue for and against that theory, but it makes sense to me in that. What I don't think is they want a whole new generation of millions of people that now believe this happened because they knew people that participated in it. Now they have proof, and they're going to run and jump out and buy all kinds of Iranian, which is kind of hard to get if you get so much on eBay and whatnot. But that's where I think that's going to play out. They're going to do whatever they're going to do. Is I believe there's going to be some significant vehicles put in play that will limit, future speculation. But I don't see anything that's going to stop me from going out and purchasing Mongolian, right, or Brazilian, or something like that, right?
Okay, 484, thank you for your questions.
Thank you much.
Our next caller is area code 918. 918. Hello. Hi, what's your first name?
John.
You have a question for Sean?
Hello, John.
Hi, how are you? I have a couple of questions, if I could. Number one, when we make our appointment to go in and do our exchange, of course, we take all of our currencies, we exchange them into U.S. dollars. That's in our account. At that time, all the currencies we exchange, whether it be dinar, zim, dong, rupiah, Afghan, whatever it is, we exchange it into U.S. dollars. It's in our account. At that time, is our U.S. dollar in that account gold-backed or asset-backed?
All the information that I have, which is also the information I trust. First, I always caution, there's no way to prove or disprove any of this at this point, right? But there is levels of information that you can corroborate in various, triangulate, as I call it. From all of the information that I have that I trust and that makes the most sense given the whole context and purpose of the GCR is yes. As a matter of fact, the information I have and that I report on and that I post on various blogs is this GCR you're not going to do the exchange until the asset-backed, gold-backed U.S. dollar, which is called the USN. There's TRNs and then there's USNs. We all learned about that over these last few weeks.
Correct.
But the USNs are not there, you're not going to exchange. All right? So it's kind of a mutually exclusive scenario. So I would say yes. The answer is yes. If you are exchanging and you're getting these nice rates at your appointment, that money is now in USNs and it's gold backed. However, I also believe that if you ask the exchange officer across from you, can you guarantee me or can you tell me is this money gold-backed?
Mm-hmm.
That exchange officer may have no idea what you're talking about. All they're there is to exchange you, right? But I think we all know because I firmly believe we're all going to know more about the bigger picture in this GCR than the actual exchange people we're going to do the transaction with. The very fact that we're exchanging, I think we should is a confirmation that the USN has been injected into the banking infrastructure. And I can say right now, the reason we're not exchanging right now is it's no secret. If you look at all the boards, there's a total blackout in anything regarding USN, TRN, what's going on. Even the usual sources that kind of put out all this stuff, there's nothing. And even my information that I get from various places, it's been a total blackout since just before Christmas. Right.
The reason, of course, for my question, which you probably gathered, is if that is true, if it is asset-backed or gold-backed at that point, maybe someone doing the exchange, they cannot tell you, the devil's in the details. I would take it further and ask someone higher up, because if that is true, then if you exchange at a Tier 1 bank, you don't have to worry about the derivative problem, do you?
Correct.
That was part of the fiat system.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, so here's the thing. I believe that we will be doing exchanges. All of these exchanges will be happening ahead of the public announcements of the new asset-backed system, right?
Correct.
And that may not happen until the middle of January. I'm talking about the public announcements where you're going to see CNBC talking about this, right? And could be middle of January, could be the end of January, could be February. No one has any idea when the public side of this. Yet, because of forward rate agreements, the money we exchange, by definition, will be asset-backed, even though publicly that may not be like common knowledge or the case or that type of thing, right? So
I understand.
What I certainly wouldn't do is if you can't get a confirmation during your exchange, if you ask the question, are these dollars I'm getting in exchange for my Zim or my dinar and dong, are they gold backed or asset backed? If you can't get proof of that, trust me, that they're only there to exchange your currency, right? That's their only purpose, and they need to get you in and get you out.
Right.
And so you're going to have a choice. They'll say, listen, we can't answer that. We don't know. Do you want to exchange or do you not want to exchange, right? Then you're going to have to make a choice, right?
Well, of course you're going to exchange.
Yeah, my choice is, I'm going to exchange, right?
Yeah, I understand. You've answered it. I have another question, too. In following this, I'm not up too much on the historical bonds, the prosperity packages, all that, but I think my limited understanding is that is going to help a lot of different types of things for humanity. Even I've heard pets or starting farms and all that.
Yes.
And that's good. I know there are a lot of churches involved in this. They're going to help a lot of people. I know I have a friend in a group that they've already turned their currency, been vetted, everything. And part of their exchange was so much goes to Wounded Warrior.
Correct.
So I was sitting back here the other day thinking, yes, this is a blessing and you're supposed to help people. There's going to be so many organizations flooded with money. So what I'm going to do is monitor that. I'm sure they're going to get a lot of funds, but I'm going to set up a private entity, and I'm going to help people directly, anonymously, on a local basis.
Keep it local, brother. I'm with you on that one. You bring up a great point.
You can find out a lot, like just through our, every year our newspaper does Neediest Family Fund Drive. Well, you can go down to the paper and you can find out a list of these people. Just send them a check. They won't even know where it came from. You know,
and it's local, so you can keep an eye on it. Yep.
Exactly. And I think if people do that, and these big groups and humanitarian packages, they're going to take care of the big thing. Well, if we do that, the people that don't even know about this, if we help them, you're going to get more bang for your buck. Very simple.
I agree with you, and that's very, well, enough said. I agree 100%. And also most people, I hope many people realize that the big name, big corporate charities that are out there, the ones that are advertised everywhere, if people actually realize that only maybe 9 cents of their donation actually gets to the cause they're donating to.
I know.
All the rest is absorbed in advertising fees and consultants and God knows all the other sharks that are in the water there. But
exactly.
That's why I say keep it local. Keep it local and you can't go wrong. Yep.
Yeah, and that crossed my mind, too. A lot of these groups out there, big groups, say our veterans group, I thought, man, they're just going to be inundated with funds, and someone needs to keep an eye on that money. I hate to say it, but that's the reality, you know. But thank you for taking my call and answering my questions.
Yep, I agree. Sorry, I just dropped my phone.
That's all right. Thank you so much.
I agree. Thank you for that call. All right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, John. Great question.
All right. So, Jennifer, we have a lot of people in the queue now, so I'm going to go a little, I was kind of going in more depth just to kind of, because we only had a few, but now let's bring on more callers.
Here we go. Area code 575.
Hi.
Your first name, please. 575.
Okay, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes. What is your first name?
Morgan.
Hello, Morgan.
Yeah, hey. Hi, Sean. How's it going?
Good. Are you Morgan from last week?
Yes, and I've been trying to find that woman, Barbara.
Yes, I got the private message earlier today on the site, and or actually it wasn't private. It was out there on my board. So,
right.
Deb knows both of you, and I thought that she connected. She told me she was going to connect you two, and that was...
I know she told me that, too, and she kept sending me emails, and she was so inundated with all the other calls and stuff. She says, I'll come around back, circle around back to you, and she never did.
Okay, she will do that. She's on a plane to Australia right now, but
okay.
She'll listen to this call, but also I sent her an email to
because she's somebody I can start a group with here, and I'm really excited to get that started.
Yep, we'll get that done.
Okay, so that's out off the plate. Now I have another question. I have a couple of small questions. Hang with me because I keep writing these things down. Okay, so I'm assuming, number one, let's clear this off the plate, that we will know if we're going to pay taxes or not.
Yes, there's going to be two scenarios. Either the tax is already included in the rate, or there's going to be a set rate that you will pay when it comes normal time to file. But I am in the camp, or I am leaning towards that. Being this is an international humanitarian, we already have heard in many boards and other popular calls, whether it was almost by mistake it was mentioned, but for those of us that know, it's called an international tax treaty.
Okay.
And there is absolutely an international tax treaty associated with these funds transfers or these exchanges.
Mm-hmm.
And they are based in. They will cover the fees of doing the various because people got to get paid, right? It's part of their salaries to facilitate these things. But
sure, that's not
what I understand is this international tax treaty. It's not going to the IRS. Okay, so.
Oh, good. That's good to know.
Yeah, and hello, I know you guys are listening, but you're not getting it. Okay.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah, and so I believe that that tax will be included in the rate from the information I have, and you'll be given a document or a piece of paper that when it comes time to file your taxes, we won't get into whether the IRS will be abolished before this happens and all that. Let's just leave it that part alone.
Okay, that sounds good. I have another important question, and do you know what Cobra is?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so I understand there's this event, but there's the other event of the dismantling, and I've been told, I've heard that and read that when that happens, things could go down for about 2 weeks. The banks might be closed. They're saying put some money aside so that you can survive, blah, blah, blah. It may be a little confusion. Am I right on about that?
All right. First, I'll preface this by everything is my opinion on this, and I certainly do not bash or I don't necessarily agree or disagree with.
Sure,
but
I totally hear you.
Yeah, the larger event that you're discussing, that's a major event. That's far above the global financial reset. The global financial reset, the GCR is a part of that. That's the first domino, right?
It has to happen first, right?
Yeah. Because that's what's going to unlock all the funds for humanity, for us, and for the sovereign level, which are going to help all their people and that type of thing, and the projects that you hear about. There are two camps out there. One is that when the event happens, it's going to create a massive chaos, and they're putting out kind of just be prepared. Maybe the banks will close for a week or 2 weeks, or
they're saying a week to 2 weeks. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. That may happen depending on how the public reacts.
And also depending on what happens with our buddies our buddies up there. It's like what they come in and do.
Yep, exactly.
Mm-hmm. I trust them. I mean, I have they're taking care of things that we don't even have a clue how to take care of.
Yeah, that's the bigger shift and if Deb was here, she could chime in on this, but that's
right.
Yeah. So I'm missing.
Okay, so the other one is what I've heard and what I've read and found from like people like Archangel Michael and stuff who are saying, when you get it, I mean, my first step is where do I put it? So it's like I'm going to deal with that first. I'm not going to go running around like a chicken with its head cut off, right? Yeah. The first thing they say is take care of yourself first.
Absolutely.
And the people closest to you. I'm not concerned about what I'm going to do with the money, where I'm going to put it. I'm going to stay at the local level. Definitely, I agreed with that man. But the thing is, I'm taking care of me first because that's important. If it's like if you need to put on your mask, you put on your mask first, or else you can't help anybody else.
Correct.
So that's where I'm going. Okay, that clears that up.
There will be. Deb's messages are very clear. There is going to be a massive upheaval. All right.
Definitely. I know that, and I'm ready to. I've realized that that's part of where I come in terms of that's going to be a major part of my work.
Right, and all of us are going to be the way showers. We're going to help the people around us understand what's happening
and keep them calm.
Exactly. We do not
because they're going to take over the media and all that to like really calm people. There's going to be some light coming in the planet. There's going to be a lot of things because they're aware of that, and they guarantee us there will be no disastrous things happening, but there will be some chaos, definitely, and fear.
I can just tell you that when people realize what the fiat system and the currency and the financial side was, it's going to blow their minds, right?
Well, not only that, but it's going to bring up a lot of anger and resentment.
Yes, and that's where we come in because
we come in. That's where I come in. I know that for sure.
Yep. We are not going to be lynch mobs, right?
No, and it's going to be up to us to calm people down. I'm already setting up some people in town where I live that know about what's happening, so that I'm saying, I'm sort of gathering a group. I would like Barb. That's why I want to connect with Barb, so that we can calm people down and just kind of let them know by our own light that everything's going to be okay.
Exactly.
Okay, good. Okay, let's see. Is there anything else? Okay, so you're saying the Iranian, we'd have to have a lot of money to do that. We may have to be registered as a dealer.
That's the popular.
Okay, and we'll find that out in time.
Yeah.
There's no
take
reason to get too ahead of ourselves.
One step at a time, right? I don't try to assume that how I think everything is going to happen. I will evaluate the situation each and every day as it goes forward, and I'll make the adjustments in my personal plans for myself and also for those around me. Yep.
Okay, and because what I'm trusting is, that's why I'm not running out going, what do? I will know what to do. I'm already getting the guidance, and I trust that my guides will show me in the moment. I will know. I don't have to make big plans of where I'm going to put my money or who I'm going to help. I'm staying local first.
Yes.
And my guidance will take care of the rest.
We're going to engage as other groups are engaging on other sites and that. I mean, we're going to engage in bigger global projects as well and hook people up with the people that are doing that we've vetted out and we have some understanding of what they're doing. So, but predominantly, I tell you, I'm going to do a lot of local things. And
I live in one of the a very poor town, so it's like in the general. And I already have some friends that I am going to help, and that's where my energy goes first.
Yep, we're gonna move into city councils. We're gonna do things like that, and we're gonna set things right from an attitude of love and abundance and that type of thing, and not greed and self-gain, right? So
exactly. We're on the same page, and that's just kind of where I'm at. So good. So the experience with Barbara is in the works.
Yes, good.
Okay, good. That would be great. I can't. Like I said, I don't know how to contact her, so we'll just have to go from there.
Yeah, just give it another day or two, and that'll happen. Okay.
Okay. Well, listen, great. I'm glad you're doing this, and thank you for the support and everything. And I feel like it's all going to be in perfect divine timing.
Yes.
And other than that, I'm not concerned.
Me either. Thanks, Barbara.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. Many blessings.
You too.
Area code 651. 651.
Hello there. This is Country Gal.
Hello, Country Gal.
Aloha.
Hi. How are you guys doing? Hey, Sean. You touched on this a little bit before when you were talking about the stock market and the hedge funds. Just your opinion. I've watched the Bix Weir documentary on the seed company and how corrupt everything is, and how so just what do you feel that's going to happen with the stock market after this all happens and the republic comes back?
Well, yeah, that gets in. There's the GCR, which is really only relative to the currencies going away from fiat, and that's what that domino is. But above that, above the GCR, is the global financial reset, where whether you call it Basel III, then moving to Basel IV, these types of arrangements they're going to be put into force, which will provide transparency and regulation of the banking system, because they have in my opinion, they have no right to be in the casino business, right, and that type of thing. And all of that is only possible because of the fiat system we have. When the banks need more money, guess what? They just reach out to their buddy, the Federal Reserve, or in other countries, their central bank, and they just print more money on paper. And they're able to just keep injecting that and keeping that thing going, and we get into this spiral system, which we're in right now. So when the financial reset takes hold, and I believe it'll be in steps. It's not all going to happen overnight. It's a process, right? But the GCR is first. And then the banking system will come in line. I believe there are many good guys within the banking system. No organization, whether it's the big international three-letter agencies or the local banks or the big banks, they're not all evil, right? And just that they're able to operate in a certain way, and a lot of people do what they're told to do, and they do what they do. The financial reset will bring to bear a whole new set of rules and regulations which tell them what they can and can't do and serve a greater purpose. And that's where we will have our sovereignty. We will have the right to control where our money goes, whether we have it with a bank or another institution or something. We'll still be able to make investments. I don't believe the stock market is going away. I mean, the stock market serves a very good purpose for generating capital for companies to do what they want to do. I don't want to get into the big evil corporation type of stuff, but these regulations will put things in place, make things more transparent, and eliminate the derivatives. Well, the derivatives can't exist in a fiat system, right? You can't create money out of thin air. You just can't. If you don't have the gold to back up currency, there's only going to be so much you can have. And that will set, everything will kind of fall into place and put natural limits on what can and cannot happen in that system. So I am definitely not a proponent of stock markets are evil and they're all going to go away, but the fact of making money out of thin air and just investing in monetary instruments to make more money off of nothing being created. The key is what's being created, right? When a company sells stock and they need that capital to go produce products, hire people, expand, that's a good thing in my opinion. But when it's just people, brokers and everybody making money off of money and nothing is created, just out of thin air, that's where things, where we get into what's called the credit crisis. Again, based on debt, credit in debt, those types of things, and leveraging. I think the options market, the derivatives market is going to be highly regulated or completely repurposed. And so you're not going to be able to just say, hey, you know what, I'm going to only spend the money on one share, but I'm going to get the buying power of 1,000 shares because I bought a couple of options on it, and I'm just going to get money on top of the money where nothing of value is created anywhere, right? So that's my take on how that's going to work. But the stock markets are still going to be there, and I believe in a free market society, and people will be able to invest in what they put value in creating things, if that answers this question.
Thank you. Yeah, it does. I was just wondering, you think of the Bernie Madoffs and the Ken Lehmans and all those, and you go, wow, that has to change. Yeah, that will change, and trust me, I can't see how that can all change overnight, but certainly the regulations can be put into place very quickly, and that I believe by definition, that will stop any Bernie Madoff type of stuff from happening, and Ponzi schemes and whatnot. So I think it's going to be okay. All right. Thanks, you guys. Thanks, Jen. Thanks, Sean. Thanks, Country Gal.
Thanks, Sue. Have a good evening. Our next caller is from area code 281.
Yes.
Hi there.
Yes, 281.
Your first name?
Antonio.
Antonio, hello.
Yes, Sean, I have given away or gifted quite a few dongs. Mm-hmm. Would they need some sort of receipt or something to go along with that gifting letter?
I always side on the area of have everything you need and not need it, and need something and you don't have it. So if you've gifted any currency to people, obviously the gift letter that both of you and you as the giver and the recipient have signed, that's pretty much a receipt. That means you have turned over that, and of course the gift letter would say, you do not need to repay, this is not a loan, that type of thing. But I would certainly, if you have a receipt, even if the receipt is for, let's say, you bought a million dong and you gifted somebody 10,000, I would still provide them with the receipt for that million dong, so they could have that to show that the gift came from someone and it was a legitimate purchase. I doubt you'll need it, but if you can do it, I would have it. I would do it.
Okay. One last question about, when will they go into the bank to exchange that?
If the people you gifted are not watching on the internet, so first I think one thing that I agree with. Yep.
I'll notify everybody when I.
Yeah, you just notify them, and they'll be able to to get access. The 800 numbers, I highly doubt they're not going to be published on the internet. I think they're not allowed to be published, but they can be emailed and they can that type of thing. But I don't think a public internet site can actually say, here's the 800 numbers. I think it'll be more like if you're watching and you're registered, you'll receive an email notice that the 800 numbers are here, or a conference call, that type of thing. But I don't believe they'll be able to be published on an open website. Maybe not, but the information now is that they can't be published. But you can certainly call your circle that you gifted and say, here's how you make an appointment. I believe that's going to be perfectly fine.
All right, great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Antonio, I just want to remind you that Sean's not a certified financial advisor, so he's giving you his opinion and some really great suggestions, but it's always a good idea to check with someone who's legally certified.
Yep, that's why I always err on the side of having everything possible that, with you, even though you don't need it. You may not need it. Yep. Thank you, Jennifer, for that. I am not a financial advisor. I am not running the GCR. I am not running the exchanges, and I just have certain pieces of information, and I'm telling you what I've done, what I do, and my opinion. Correct.
Great job. Thank you. Our next caller is from area code 707.
Hi. Thank you for taking my call.
Hi there. Your first name?
Patty.
Hi, Patty.
Hello, Patty.
Hi, Sean. Thank you very much. Hey, I've had dinar since 2004, and I've been a student, and I have shared over the years with, friends and family that it would be a good opportunity and they might think about it. Anyway, I've had people trying to intervene, like putting me in a room to tell me that it's a scam and I've been had, and so it's I'm going to be vindicated. So I'm looking forward to that, I think, as much as the whole getting exchanged. But over the years, I have 5 currencies, and I really in my mind, and I've studied so much of different countries that I was thinking I was going to do my exchange, and then just like I've purchased these currencies, there's other countries I wanted to purchase currencies. And in my mind, I was thinking I was going to purchase them, get them physically, and then put them in a safe or something like that. And is that the best way? Or is there a better way, like a multi-currency account?
My opinion on that, because I've looked into doing the same thing that you are speaking of. Multi-currency accounts or multiple currency accounts. Those are 2 different types of accounts.
Correct.
A multi-currency account just allows you to have currencies within the same account in different currencies. That's the one that makes sense to me because everything's in one spot rather than having that. The problem is trying to find a bank that, if you want to hold these different currencies, that they give you access to some of these, what you would call more esoteric currencies, right? Or exotic currencies, right?
Exactly.
And that's hard to do. So I don't think, from my research and because I wanted to do the same thing, I can't find a way to do that. So probably the best way would be to kind of do what we're doing right now, but if you're talking about after this first round.
Yeah, like getting,
goes,
like
right?
let's say Mongolia or whatever. Could be.
Yep.
There's a lot of different countries. But
and you're talking about buying these currencies after you do the exchange on the currencies you currently hold, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah, I would set up an entity be it a trust or something of that nature. I personally, I did a lot of research, and I opened up and I created a irrevocable trust. And what I would just use is after the GCR, if I believe that there are certain currencies that I want to go after for later. This is assuming that there's this multiple basket thing going on, right? There's first basket, second basket, that kind of thing. It could go all at once. We don't know. And but if it doesn't, I will use my trust to go out and purchase whether it's Mongolian or other types of currencies, the ones on my radar, and I'll just bring it into the trust, and the trust will hold those currencies physically, meaning literally they're in the safe. And then when the time comes, if they revalue, then the trust will execute an exchange, with an exchange bank or something of that nature at that time. Trying to find a multiple currency account or a multi-currency account where you can get Mongolian and then also hold Brazilian and then also hold whatever.
From India and everything else.
Yeah, they always say, well, we don't have access to that, or you've got to open an account down in Brazil to actually do that, or you have to open an account in Mongolia to do that, and that's too complicated for me. I like to keep it simple. So I'll just have my trust purchase whatever currencies, bring them in, and just physically keep them wherever we keep them, and then if they revalue, we'll just exchange them at that point.
I appreciate that. I have one more question. My son lost his life in Iraq, and in 2004, and my first currency came back in his personal belongings. And so he had just told me 2 weeks earlier that he believed that they were helping the Iraqi people and someday they would have a better life. And I had to hold on to that. So for my own self, I would like to invest in Iraq as well, in the stock market, in rebuilding their country. It's like in my gut. And I don't know how, do I go on the stock market?
What I would do, my opinion on this, and it's only my opinion, is given that this is a very personal nature for you, and thanks your son for his sacrifice and duty and that, and I can only imagine. But to follow what he believed was something he wanted to do and to help the people, because the soldiers that go over there, they see what's going on, right, and their heart's got to go out to the people there, right, and. So what I would do is you'll have the means after this exchange, and what I would do is I would you might want to take a trip over there, or find some people that you know or that you can trust, and how can you help people directly? Because just like everywhere, there are activities and there are organizations on the ground that are helping people and doing different things. Reach out and try to find organizations rather than just invest in the stock market. You can do that, but maybe what would make your heart resonate even further in following your son's wishes would be to reach out to finding these organizations that are literally on the ground in Iraq, and you can go meet with them, right? And
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I know several people that are in Iraq at this moment. And I didn't think to do that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I think you'll be actually able to literally see what your investment in that country will do if you go that route. It's almost like going local, right? Instead of the stock market and that type of thing, right? So, okay, thank you for that. Thank you for that question.
Thank you very, very much.
Okay, take care.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Patty, and we'll be holding a light for you.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, thank you.
Wow. Those kind of things affect me. So, all right.
We'll include that in tomorrow night's meditation. Our next caller is from area code 902.
Hi there.
Hi.
Hello.
Your first name?
I'm Barb.
Hi, Barb.
As you talk about going into the bank, making your exchange, taking in all of your currency, it always struck me that I thought it might be wiser to only take in the amount that I needed immediately to solve, initial bills. But wouldn't we be wise to just just as we've been holding the various currencies now, would there be a downside to leaving it in the currency it is and only exchanging as needed?
All right. Good question, Barb. And that gives me the opportunity to clarify what the information that I have in this kind of thing. First, when you say going into a bank, I'm kind of a very wordsmithy kind of person, and like I said at the beginning of this show, what is it? I want to know what, I listen to words, and I want to know what the definitions of words are and things. When you say I'm going into a bank, you're not going into a bank. You're going into an exchange center that is not going to be your local bank. You're not walking into the retail side, right? You're going to go to an exchange center that's been set up somewhere in your area, and you make the appointment, and that's where you're going to go. It's highly unlikely, unless it's a very small community, that it's going to be the bank branch that you normally go to, right? So I can say that I know for a fact that the security around these exchanges is very serious. It's extremely serious. It's very serious from when you go in to bring your currency in. There are guards in some levels of these exchanges. They have semi-automatic weapons and these types of things, and it's extremely serious business because you're talking about a lot of money, and you want to feel safe when you do this, and which is why you're going to go to an exchange center and not just walk into a bank and kind of say, yeah, I'd like to go, exchange these currencies, and you pull it all out. You're right there. So I don't think you have to worry about security at that point. But the bigger issue is my continued belief, as I said earlier, is these are all private exchanges. Whether you're part of the G64 or whether, you call it dinar land or whatnot, it's a lot of people. And it's not the public. Sometimes people in dinar land say the public exchanges, well, what they're really talking about is dinar land, not the general public like everybody else, right, that doesn't know about this. So I believe from the information I have, there's going to be one shot at getting this exchange and getting the most benefit out of the exchange coming. And if you're going to get an appointment to go in at a designated, secure exchange center, my thoughts are, and if I was me, this is what I'm actually going to do, because I'm going to go in with G64. I have some ready for that. I'm going to bring it all, and because I believe that this is my one shot to maximize the investment and that type of thing. And if I were to do a little bit, and I only brought in a portion of it, and I say, by the way, what's the highest rate available? And they're like, oh, okay, well, yeah. Now that you mention it, there are some contract rates, quote unquote, and we'll be happy to explain that to you and let you take advantage of that. I might want to wish that I had brought the rest of my currency with me at that point, right? Because I do not know. Simply if I'm going to get a chance to exchange again, because if you heard what I was saying earlier, this is a private exchange. It's been set aside. We're dealing with forward rate agreements that have been put in place for us to get these kind of high rates. I think by the time this goes public, there's going to be what many people don't consider is what's going to happen when the gold-backed U.S. dollar is brought to bear on the public side of this. So to think that a gold-backed or an asset-backed dollar is going to be very weak against an Iraqi dinar, I mean, the USA fact, this is total fact, this is not speculation, the USA has the second largest resources on the planet, the country, period. All right? We're very blessed in the United States. We have all the natural resources we get. We do not need to import very much. We do the oil because that's a whole other bad guy kind of scenario going on. But We have everything we need here. So once the U.S. is asset-backed, the U.S. dollar, the USN, comes to bear, is it really going to be only worth one USN to 3-something Iraqi dinar that are gold-backed or asset-backed? I don't think so. So, again, in my opinion, I would certainly bring all of your currency with you to the secure exchange location and then make the decision how much you want to exchange at that point. But if you're going to get offered a very nice rate and you're going to be very happy with it, I would rather have you decide, well, I've got more in my purse or my briefcase here with me, but I'll just keep that for now, than wishing you had all of it with you, because you may only get one chance at an appointment, right? Or the higher contract rates, which have been reserved for these private transactions that you're going to be a part of. Again, that's my opinion, but I'm certainly, when I go in, I'm bringing everything that I have, and then I can decide at that point. But I'm not worried about security and that type of thing. I think, imagine millions of people going to these things, and then there's a security problem. I have to believe that the planners of this whole event kind of are not going to allow, security to be an issue. And I can tell you, from information I have, the security is extremely serious. It's very serious. Does that help? Hello?
Barb?
Oh, sorry. I wasn't in any way thinking about security. I was just, and I suppose, if I'm being honest, I'm kind of surprised that there is a contract rate. I'm not saying the other people weren't telling the truth. It just seemed too good to be true.
Yeah,
so I've always been thinking the most basic amount.
Yeah, I can tell you that there are high rates.
Sorry.
There are very high rates, and they are very real. I can tell you that right now. I know that. Okay, so.
Okay, so can I re-ask my question just quickly, saying, let's. I know I heard what you just said, and that's wonderful, and that would certainly probably would change my plan. But just for this moment, could we pretend there weren't contract rates, and it's just going to be one rate? Doesn't matter whether it's
whatever
the first day that it's available, or 3 months down the road. The rate is the rate is the rate. Yeah. Would there be a downside to only exchanging as needed? That's kind of my question.
And yes, in my opinion, the downside could be that this is the only chance you're going to get to have whatever rate, meaning like a 10,000% increase. I would rather not risk, from me personally, which is why I'm doing. I don't want to risk this being my only shot, and then I waited, because if the rate that I'm offered when I'm right there is like, wow, that's really good, whatever it is, I'm going to take it. And because if I hold back a percentage of it, I don't have any guarantee that I'm going to have a chance to get this rate ever again, right? That type of thing. So,
okay. All right. Okay. So you're saying that even if it's a dollar, $1 American dollar to 1 dinar, we don't know for sure that could not be reduced in time.
You mean it go less than $1? Yeah, yeah. Well, okay, I can tell you it's going to be more than $1. All right. So, but I don't honestly understand. I think the information where people are saying, "Hey, I've been given a sucker rate," and I've been reading that this past week. Notice that those people don't tell you what the sucker rate is, what their definition of I actually do not like those kinds of phrases. I believe that there are certain groups out there that are really not groups. They're people that are in groups that are gathering other people around them and saying, hey, I can get you this, and then they're actually skimming, right? So I don't think when it comes time for the actual official exchanges with banks at the exchange centers, there's not going to be sucker rates. You're not dealing with some guy that's in a group that you know. It's going to be what it is. And I'd rather have all my currency with me to decide right there, do I want to do all of it or not, right? That's
understood.
That's the way to go. Okay,
cool. And then just very quickly, you talked about you already yourself have an irrevocable trust, and therefore I gather when the opportunity comes along for you to exchange, you'll be able to use that trust. What about for those of us who maybe for financial reasons have not been able to open that trust yet?
This is good because you're at Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you.
You're actually on the topic.
Perfect. Yeah, I was hoping you could get to that. Could you please?
Yes. All right. I was fortunate enough to be able to set up an irrevocable trust. There are many trusts out there. However, from my research, I am not a financial advisor. I'm not a trust attorney. I am not any of that. I'm telling you what I did and why I did it. After researching all the different trusts and talking to many trust attorneys and all that, I decided that the first foremost thing you must do is understand what you want the trust for. What is the goal of the trust? All right? There are trusts that are for, like, I want to hand down money to my children. I want it to be after I pass on. I want to do this, right? There are trusts for that. But what I wanted to do is recognizing that the currencies that I hold once they're exchanged could be substantial in amounts during the exchange. The main goal I wanted to set up a trust for was asset protection, rock solid. In other words, protection against litigation, protection against all forms of attack on my personal person looking to get my money, right? So whether it's a car accident, whether somebody trips and falls in my house and hurts themselves, I don't want to be at risk. So asset protection was my goal. Once I explained to the various trust attorneys in different companies, and I interviewed many, they all came to the conclusion after I researched, and they said an irrevocable trust is what you want. Now, what many people will say is I don't like irrevocable trust is because you have to have trustees, and the key word of a trustee is you've got to be able to trust your trustees, right? So because the trustees control your assets, period. And you can't change the nature of the trust because it's irrevocable. That's why it's called irrevocable. Once you set the bylaws of the trust, they're non-changeable unless you do what's called a distillation. So we won't get into that right now. But the bottom line is make sure you can trust your trustees because they're the ones that are going to execute in the best interest of the trust, not the best interest of you, the beneficiary. But all of the best interests of the trust are set up in the agreement, in the trust document, right? So you tell me. So I was fortunate enough to be able to create an irrevocable trust ahead of time, and then I transferred all of my currencies into that trust. So when the time comes, when the actual, let's say the internet group, the G64 goes, I can tell you right now, it's my trustee that's going in, not me. Right? I might be able to be there, and if I can, I will. But it's the trustee that signs all the papers. It's the trustee that does all the paperwork, everything that does the execution of the transaction. And because I technically do, I do not own that currency. The trust does, not me. And so that will be done. After the GCR, let's say you don't have the ability to set up a trust because they can be rather expensive. That's okay. What you do is once you do the exchange, if you want to protect yourself, because it's not like you're going to get sued in a day after you make the exchange or any of that kind of thing, set up whatever trust makes sense to you right after. Make that a priority. Before you go on a vacation, before you do whatever, make one of your to-do lists to set up an entity that executes, that fulfills what the objectives are. My opinion is you should set up an entity that protects your assets to the highest ability under all laws and that type of thing first, and then guess what? You can use an irrevocable trust to form. An irrevocable trust can start a foundation. It can start a charitable trust. All of those things are underneath the irrevocable trust. And the trustees, along with you, the beneficiary, execute these types of things. But the bottom line is nobody can touch your assets in terms of lawsuits, whether it's divorce, family issues, like your brother-in-law comes out of the woodwork and says, you owe me money, I'm going to sue you, right? They can't get it. You don't own it. There's no way they can touch it, in my research, right? So, but do your homework, and the only thing is about, irrevocable trust is the very nature they're irrevocable is why they protect your assets so well. They cannot be changed, and it's very difficult for anybody to get access, if not almost impossible. But nothing's impossible, but that's the best protection you can get. And then set up all your charitable foundations and things underneath that. And you can do that. I would make that a priority after the exchanges, and go from there. And then you can still enjoy life and that type of thing, but you will also know that if you have one trust that owns your car, if somebody hits you or you get in an accident and they all of a sudden start going, oh, wow, you have a nice car, and then now they need to go to the hospital and their neck hurts and all that, they try to sue you because you're driving a really nice car. If that car is owned by a trust, all they can do is go after whatever assets are attached to the car, which would be the insurance, the liability and all of that type of stuff. And they can never come after your larger amounts and what your net worth is. It's almost, that's why an irrevocable trust exists, to do exactly that. And quite frankly, most of the wealthy people on the planet, they all have irrevocable trusts. That's a fact, right? So do it as soon as possible, whatever kind of entity you want, but just please know what you want the trust for or what you want the entity to do. And that will help guide you into what's the best type of entity to set up, right? For that need. But for asset protection, in my opinion, an irrevocable trust is pretty solid.
Okay, Barb, thank you for your questions. Sean, we have 15 minutes. It's quarter to 8 in California, yep. And there are 10 callers in the queue. So maybe we could do a lightning round.
All right, we can do oh my gosh, crazy. Lightning round. All right.
There's your challenge. Area code.
All right. Yeah, let's try to get everyone we can, but no, we have to go fast. Yep.
Okay. Area code 619.
Hello.
Hi, what's your first name?
Your name is Matthew.
Okay,
Hi, Matt.
Hi, how are you, Sean, and everyone else? I'll try to sort of change the tone and be as much brevity as possible. I'll try to keep the personal pronoun I out of my comments and not take too much of your time talking about what I want to do. I really want to tap your expertise. And I want to go to another area because I don't think anyone here has really been serious enough about the macro to understand what's going on and ask some questions. One of the questions I would ask, and I know that you may not be able to answer it, but I'd like to broach it so that you all can start thinking about it. I'm wondering why, given that this is essentially a federal, a national, a nation-state activity that has to do with us being able to take part in both the GCR and the REE, I'm wondering why our government didn't sit down, and by the way, I have a political science background, so I'm not one of those people who's going government bad, but I'm wondering why we didn't sit down and do something like ask ourselves, why should not, say, the federal government through maybe an agency that's already existent, why didn't we just set up a secondary entity to actually handle this whole RV and the whole anything related to it? We could have been taxed through that entity. We could have gone into a federal office and done something very simply and bypassed the banking system. It seems to me that very system that essentially 8 years ago caused us to go into damn near free fall in the first place, it should certainly not have money, funding, and capability, especially philanthropic capability, funnel back through those entities. So I'm trying to figure out why at all, by the way, any of the banking system should be there funneling and determining what's going on with ultimately what will be net, currency and worth. Why they're there when we could have done that through the aegis of our own government and not have any of that be in place?
All right. Quick answer. This is a very macro issue. You're exactly right on that, Matthew. So the bottom line is the banking infrastructure is already there. Everything works fine. It works quite well, and the banking infrastructure is a tool. And a tool can be used for good purposes or bad purposes. It's just depending on who's holding the tool or who's controlling it. So the primary purpose of what's happening with the GCR and the GFR in the financial world, it's not federal government related. It's the financial side related. And we all know that the federal government really doesn't have any real control over the financial side. I mean, the Federal Reserve Bank is not beholden to the federal government under any circumstances. And just Google Alan Greenspan's famous speech. I think it was on USA Today. Good Morning America, whatever. And he says, first of all, the Federal Reserve Bank is not beholden to the Senate or the Congress or anything like that. So this is not a federal government issue, the GCR. It's a financial event. And the decision was taken, if I may, just to be short, to why throw the baby out with the bathwater? We've got a huge financial infrastructure which works very well. And so what we want to do is just repurpose that banking infrastructure, not destroy it and create some whole new entity that would handle this, the GCR and also the financial reset itself. So all that's being done in the short answer is the financial system is being repurposed to be more transparent, to be more in line with the vibration, as Deb would say, of non-greed and those types of things. And so that system will be used and is being used as we speak right now. Actually maybe tomorrow and moving through the week. To execute these currency exchanges, right? And then later the bigger part of the GFR. So it's a tool. If we just look at it like that, we don't need to get rid of it or bypass it. We just need to change what it's used for and how it's used and who's in control of
it. May I follow up?
Yep.
Just really quickly. I apologize for my background. I'm a political scientist, Northwestern, MIT, two different places. So I'm not alien to any of the process. I know who Adam Smith is. I know a lot of stuff. But I think I'm asking a bigger question here. And you've answered the question I've asked, but maybe I'm asking a bigger question. I'm really suggesting that there is a disconnect between. I'm in this because I really do like the idea of philanthropically being able to do something to help each other around the world. I think that's really important. Otherwise, we all hang together as French Revolution, or we all hang separately. But I'm looking at this situation. I'm going, as long as there is a corporate capital organ with its whole purpose, its whole raison d'etre being profit, as long as that's at the core of everything that's going on here, how can we seriously talk about philanthropy?
Okay. Yeah. Actually, you're bridging into the philosophical now. I'll tell you what. This conversation could go on for a while, and it fascinates me, and it's actually a personal subject of mine. But probably, given the time we have left and the number of callers, I'll tell you what. Would you mind if I give you a call later on and we can jump into this? Because I would love to pick your brain, and I'm already liking the direction you're going. So Jennifer, can you make a note of Matt's call?
Yes, I'll be sure.
Great.
I'll text that to you, Sean.
All right.
That was a great question. Great question.
Yes, it is. And Matt, I want to go through all of this with you, and then maybe we can actually discuss once we come to a kind of a concise, foundation on all this. We can bring this up on next week's call. Okay.
I'd love to also, because, and then I'll let you go. But I know my purposes, and I have a team of people who are involved as well. I really do want to do something that philanthropically can help people around the world, and I think I know how. So please call me back and beat me up.
I will. Well, you can beat me up too. But also, it would be great. We're going to do a lot of things on the site that we've set up, and philanthropically, and also, basically creating the new earth. And I mean that, and I'm engaged with this with all my heart in getting this done. So let's discuss that. I'll give you a call. And okay, thanks, Matt. And we'll move on to a few other callers. All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Area code 716.
Hello?
Hi. What's your first name?
My name is Rick.
Hi, Rick.
Yeah, Sean, I have a quick question. You started to answer this for me, but I'd like just a little more clarity. because I'm not in the General 64. I'm not in a private up above contract group, and I'm not in Wells Fargo. So then we're down to what you're referring to as the Internet groups. And you said that it won't be posted on their Internet sites, but they might mail it out. If I get daily email updates from, say, Dinar Recaps, is that what you're talking about specifically, about getting notified? Because I'm terrified I might miss this somehow.
You won't miss it. You can't miss it. I know some people will argue passionately with me on that, but I stick to my guns, and, in the end, we all have to stick to our guns, right? But if you're getting emails from Dinar Recaps, if you're looking at the boards, every kind of internet group or blog out there related to the GCR, you had to use your email address to register to be on that site, right?
Sure.
So I know that when this comes out, there will be email broadcast to everybody that says, here's how you make an appointment. And the only issue is we can split hairs on the G64 versus the Wells Fargo versus the Internet. Some sources will say this is all the same. Other sources are saying kind of like G64 will go, and then a little bit later the Internet group will go, and whatever. And Wells Fargo will but honestly, I think they've all been pretty much merged into the same thing, and any other discussion around that is splitting hairs, but it'll all get done. And from my information, no one blog site is going to be able to say, here's the 800 number, this is what you call, if it's even an 800 number. I mean, we're assuming that's the most efficient way to do this, but it's going to have to be emailed or texted or tweeted or something like that, where it goes to individuals as opposed to being just public out there for anyone to see, kind of a thing.
Right.
So,
and the other question that goes along with that, could you give some sort of not a specific rate, but a comparative thing as far as where the people on the lower end of the contract rate, what kind of ratio it might be compared to the private groups? I mean, are the Internet groups still going to get a substantial contract rate, or is it going to be much less than the higher up people?
Okay, so listen, just because we reference within the hierarchy of the groups, we say higher and lower, right?
Right.
Higher and lower does not refer to the importance or the rate of that group. The higher and lower just means it relates to the efficiency. So imagine some very high-level groups that have already collected the currencies from their members. They were mailed in, shipped in, delivered a long time ago, and there are massive amounts of currency involved in that, and they're already crated, they're already packed, they're already counted, they're already done. The members have already been vetted, meaning you're not a criminal, you're not a drug dealer, you're not a money launderer, all that. It just, from a logistical efficiency point of view, it's like those guys are going to go first because we can do it quickly, right?
Right.
And then as you go down the hierarchy, you get more and more people, not necessarily more and more dinar, or currency, but it's just everybody now at the Internet level or the G64 level, they have their currency with them. And I'll speculate, but I believe there's millions. I believe there's millions of them, not 250,000, not 500,000. I believe there are, by the time this stretches out, and people who know people and that will notify people, there's going to be several million people that are going to go in at the last level. So not the lowest level, the last level, right? And
okay.
So, I believe you'll be notified. You'll be able to, G64 might have, if you submitted your email before and when they merged the...
I'm not in G64. I'm looking at, as you say, the Internet group.
Yeah. Okay, sir, I'll say if you registered for Dinar Recaps email,
right.
For anybody out there listening, I am not affiliated with Dinar Recaps. I don't even read it, okay? But I'm registered, okay? So no offense to Dinar Recaps, but I'm not being paid. I have no affiliation with them. But if you registered for Dinar Recaps or some of the others, you had to give your email address. Those email addresses were funneled into the G64.
Oh, okay.
So you may not even know you're in G64 and you're already in GC. So I'm very clear on, I don't like to give these groups names because they were G64. First it was General 64, then it was G64, then it was Wells Fargo, and then it was whatever.
Right.
I don't like to use names, but, man, if you're registered and you're paying attention on this, you're involved in that, and, so I wouldn't really be concerned about that. The people that won't know are the people that just have no interest, have never signed up on anything, and they don't pay attention, and they're not looking, and that kind of thing, right? Unless somebody tells them, right?
Right.
So, hey, but
and you think we could see the similar rates as everyone else as far as a contract high contract rate?
All right, there are. It starts at what's called the sovereign rate.
Right.
And that's those nosebleed crazy rates you may have seen published over the years, right? Like where you see a rate where you go, oh my, there's no way that's even possible, right?
Right.
So they're the sovereign rates, and depending where you are at the different levels, and actually if you read recaps or some other things, I'm sure it was reported this week that there was some chatter around that there's some humanitarian issues involved in the higher groups, where if you're in those higher groups, there's a certain rate, and if you're going to do a humanitarian project, you have to commit a certain amount of the rate you get to that humanitarian project. That's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. Because this entire thing is a humanitarian effort, right? So,
totally.
But where people assume that this is a scam because the groups are saying you've got to commit so much to humanitarian, well, those are the people that are not in the groups, and they're making this jump to judgment and conclusions on that. The real deal is this. You can get this really high rate, but you have to commit to humanitarian projects, right? And then you're going to be watched, and they're going to say, there's going to be oversight. They're going to say, are you doing what you said you were going to do? And if you're not going to get all of the funds, right?
Okay.
However, you're also given a choice if you're going to do your own thing and you don't want to commit to humanitarian oversight, then you get this rate, right? Which is still a really, really good rate.
Okay,
right?
That's what I wanted to hear. I wanted to hear the really, really good rate part.
Yes. So, really, really good is relative, but it ain't those nosebleed rates, as we call them, that are way out there, right? Okay. So
I'm not looking for that. I was just, again, better like the lady said earlier when she was talking about $1, and you said, it'll be more than that. That's all I'm looking for.
Yep. I can tell you that a long time ago, and I never mentioned sites, but I'm going to mention it here because it's important. When TNT and Tony were doing the thing, and he did that series, I don't know, a year and a half ago, where every time they did the calls, people had to state what they were going to do for their humanitarian or how they were going to help people with the proceeds and all that. And he said, I need people to talk about this, send in your letters, I need you to do this. That was very important in the big plan, because that showed that the average dinar holder or the average currency holder really did have true humanitarian intentions at heart. That happened for a very specific reason. So I'll mention that, and that made a big difference in what we're looking at today. So I can say that the contract rates, what are called contract rates, I don't think they're actually called that, but let's just call them contract rates. It means higher than the standard everyday rate if you just don't care about anything and you're just going to take the money and run. That's the international rate. But the contract rates are associated with, are you humanitarian? You're going to pay it forward. You're going to do some things. Those have been set aside specifically for the bigger, the broader group like G64, the Internet, and they are there, right? I just don't know what those rates are actually going to be, right?
Right.
But they're going to be good, all right? I can tell you they're going to be great.
And real quick, what language would you use at the bank to get that rate? When you go in for your exchange, how do you ask for the larger rate?
Okay, I don't think there's a first. I always say ask questions, right? Engage your heart, engage your mind, leave your ego at the door.
Right.
And this is a business transaction. First of all, the very fact that you were able to make the appointment means you're aware of a lot of things, because you wouldn't be there because the average Joe doesn't know, right? So, and so what I would say is that the best rate that is available? Not that you can give me, not that you can give me, is that the best rate available to me?
Available.
Right? Right. I would even say, by the way, I have a lot of humanitarian, I want to help a lot of people. I've got a lot of people on my list. And so I just want to know that I'm getting the best rate because I want to be able to help as many people as possible. I mean, I cannot stress enough that this entire GCR is a gigantic humanitarian project, right?
Right.
Designed to get money in the hands of the people and to help other people. And that's what the theme of this whole call is about, is that's what we have to have in our hearts. And so I would just keep saying that, and I have other information that corroborates certain things around the humanitarian level that I can't get into, but the humanitarian component is absolutely real, and it is a primary focus of this entire GCR and our exchanges, by default. So, yeah, I would just say, is that the best you can do? I want to help a lot of people and be professional and just ask questions, but don't. Again, they're not going to know if it's gold-backed, and they're not going to know all the things that we talk about necessarily. And what you're there for is to exchange. Period.
Yeah, I understand that part. I wanted to get the what you thought would be the best verbiage. Is that the best rate available? Good.
Yep. Is that the best rate available? Is there anything I need to know or do to get the best rate? I mean, these are just simple open-ended questions, right?
Sure.
That unlock things. As many say, if you don't ask, you don't get, right? So I think putting your humanitarian stuff up front when you're in the exchange process, you cannot go wrong. Int. Okay, so enough said.
Okay.
Thanks, Rick. Thank you so much for all your questions.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, bye.
Sean, it's 5:08. I'm here for you. All of the listeners are still here for you. Shall we forge ahead?
Yeah, hey, we're on vacation, right? It's like between 2 years, so
let's do it. Let's stay up late. Okay.
Yeah, if there's callers that want, to chime in, then let's not deny them that, because I want to hear what they have to say, right? So.
All righty. Our next caller is area code 941. 941, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Your first
Good evening. How are you?
Hi.
Hi. My name is Ron. I just wanted to ask Sean a short question. I'm here in Central Florida, and I have checked around with all the banks, and everybody is telling me they're not dealing with dinar.
Of course. Then, yep.
And I know that's not true, but and I watch the internet and I watch all the sites every day. So you said there will be tweets out or something, or email coming out if you're on recaps or something like that to let you know when there's something going on.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So I mean I always, so first and foremost, I operate from my heart, not so much from my brain, and that could be a fault or that could be a strength, right? I think it's a strength. And knowing what I know, that the GCR and the currency exchanges are rooted and founded in humanitarian distribution of wealth that belongs to humanity to begin with. We're not getting anything that wasn't ours. We're finally getting what was ours. We're the first wave. We're the first wave of receiving what was always ours to begin with, but was taken from us over time, whether you want to go back centuries or whether you want to go back just the last 100 years, right? So this is coming. We're the first wave. We're blessed to be here. I don't use the word luck. We made a choice to buy these currencies, and now we're going to reap the rewards of that because we are going to pay it forward. We are going to help people as well as ourselves. Of course, nothing wrong with that. So first and foremost, this is a private transaction, right? Because we're the first wave, this is private, which means there's no bank publicly going to just tell you, oh, yeah, the dinar is going to revalue, just come back in a week, and things of that nature, right? So what's going to be very entertaining is while you're exchanging, or after you exchange in your private appointment when the time comes, you're going to be able to call or walk into a bank, a major bank, a Wells Fargo, or whatever, after you've already exchanged, just pretend to be a nobody and say, I have this dinar, can you exchange it for me? And they'll say, sorry, we don't deal in the dinar, but yet you've already exchanged, right? I mean, it's a private thing. So don't worry about the public side saying, we don't know anything about this, it's probably a scam, we're never going to deal in it, because they've been told to say that, and they don't know. They actually don't know at that level, right?
Oh, okay. But I heard what you said about the giving to the humanitarian side, so I plan on doing that. So I will definitely let
I know you
know.
Do. Yep. And we all are, and that's what this is all about. And it's going to be great, and we're going to feel good. All right.
All right.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. All right.
Our next caller is area code 562.
Good evening, Sean. How are you guys doing today?
Good. What's your first name?
D.
D. Oh, D. Okay. I know you.
Yeah. How you doing tonight?
Good. I'm doing great. I'm relaxing. So.
Excellent. Yeah. You know what? I'll try and make this real quick here because I know the other callers have important things they need to express and ask as well. My question is, what's your thoughts? You seem well studied, and so I just want to get your opinion on what are your thoughts, or any of the other callers as well, if they have any information in regards to buying currencies off of eBay. Now, consider we know eBay is, and I love the way Brother KJ expressed this, because he made a good point that, hey, in his opinion, eBay would have to be crazy. They're a Fortune 500 company to be doing something illegal in the open. But when you think about currency dealers have to have U.S. Most of them have to have U.S. Treasury registrations. How is it that you can do that on eBay versus an actual certified dealer have to have a license to sell certain currencies?
Very simple. Anybody who's selling the currencies on eBay, by the way, that's the only way you can buy the Iranian Real, right? Or Amazon, right? That type of thing. The people that sell on eBay, it's not eBay selling, it's the individuals who are on eBay selling things, right? So just like I want to sell my car, I can sell it on eBay, right? So the difference between a registered U.S. Treasury registered currency dealer is they both buy and sell. If they're registered with the U.S. Treasury, if you buy your currency from them, they have to buy it back, right? So and so that's kind of like the Better Business Bureau. But to buy currencies, I've only purchased the currencies such as the dinar and the dong and others from registered dealers. Actually, you can buy the Vietnamese dong from a bank, right? Because the Travelex, you can buy it anywhere because it's a regular currency. But if you want to buy the more esoteric currencies like the Zimbabwe, I keep saying esoteric, exotic currencies like Zimbabwe or Iranian, you've got to buy it from a private seller. And guess what they say? We are selling collectible items, right? So that's exactly what they're doing. So I would look at the seller's reputation. Are they highly rated? Because trust me, if somebody has purchased a currency from this eBay or Amazon seller in the past and they've been cheated or something's wrong, that's where eBay and Amazon jump in. They take the ratings of their sellers very seriously, right? They do not want people screwing people on their site. Forgive the metaphor. So so it's the only way, and that's the difference between a registered U.S. Treasury dealer and an eBay seller, is that eBay really they're selling collectible items, and I believe if you look hard enough, you'll find that we're selling this as well, actually, when I bought my Zimbabwe, I bought it off of internet dealer, not a regular dealer, but it's just because you can't buy it from any other registered dealer, and it says we're selling collectible items such as Zimbabwe dollars and blah blah blah. So it's and then you just make sure you get it and it's authentic, which you can do pretty easily, and just by checking in the bank with a book and that kind of thing. But that's the difference.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your input. And one last quick question. What you guys thoughts about the articles that have been coming out within the last week and a half regarding the ZIM? Some saying it's RV'd. Others are saying it's what we hold, the AA notes are going to be trash, and they're actually going with a brand new currency. I don't know if you guys have heard or read some of those articles, but there's various interpretations. What's briefly, what's your interpretation in regards to that information?
I know the ZIM is absolutely legit, and it's being let me just say this: it's absolutely being it's part of this GCR, right?
Okay.
I don't necessarily subscribe to these that it's going to be useless or worthless if you're holding it, because they're issuing. What they're saying is Zimbabwe is issuing a new currency, therefore the other currencies are worthless or no value to us. Well, actually, the ZIM today that we bought is already valueless because it was discontinued in 2008, right?
Right.
It actually makes no purpose or no point to say it's worthless because, technically it's out of circulation. They haven't used it since 2009 or whatever. They went to using the euro and the South African rand and the Chinese yuan and the U.S. dollar. They don't use their own currency, but they're going to. They're reissuing a currency. The reality to that is that the very fact that they're reissuing the currency and it's going to be gold-backed means that they are definitely a part of this GCR, right? So the currencies that were issued in the 2008, I don't want to go into a lot of detail, but it's called a repatriation. They need to get those currencies back. And again, this is where I was talking earlier about forward rate agreements, right? So just please look up on the in Investopedia or whatever, what the definition of a forward rate agreement is. And that's where you have a monetary instrument that is priced at a future value, and you're able to execute a transaction on that future value. And that's exactly where we are with all of these currencies, right? So bottom line, in my opinion, is I do not know the purpose or the reasons of these people posting that the ZIM is worthless. I don't think they're trying to, I never assume nefarious reasons. I don't think people are evil all the time and what they're trying to say, or they're trying to scare us, or fear porn, or whatever you want to call it. What I believe is they're just interpreting what they're reading in the current financial news. They're speculating that must mean that the currency we're holding right now is going to be, is useless because they're issuing a new currency. And that's a fact.
Right. So, I saw on the Zimbabwe today.com where I don't know if he was a finance minister, whoever the gentleman was, he actually had what appeared to be a 2008 AA note that was very familiar. It was kind of blurred out. You couldn't see exactly what it is, but he was holding it, and basically they were saying that, hey, our currency is going to be reinstated, but it's going to be different notes. But the note he was holding up was a note that I looked like it looked very familiar, and I'm like, do I have that? But anyway, nevertheless, I appreciate you guys' opinions and your information. Thank you very much, and you guys.
Just remember, they're going. What the new symbol for the Vietnamese dong is VNN. The new symbol for the Iraqi dinar is not IQD, it's IQN.
IQN, right.
The new symbol for the U.S. dollar is going from USD to USN. So the fact that Zimbabwe is now issuing a new currency, and it's going to be, the ZWN or whatever it's going to be. They had so many. I don't know where they're going to go with it. But this is all just telling you, of course they're issuing new, but that doesn't mean that it's worthless because technically the Zimbabwe is already worthless. That's a fact. But they're going to repatriate the notes we have, and we're the insiders. We know about it, and we're going to participate in it. Right?
And well, I'm glad to be a part of this time that God allowed me to be here. So thanks for you guys' information. God bless you, and keep it up.
Bless you too. Thank you. It's going to be fun.
Absolutely.
Area code 336.
Hello?
336.
Hello.
Yeah. What's your first name?
Yes. Myron. Thank you guys so much for taking my call, and I'm really enjoying what I'm hearing. My question is this. The gentleman was talking about the Zim, and I've been hearing rates as low as 3 cents and as high as 37 cents. Sean, what's your take on that?
Oh, my gosh, you've only heard 37 cents? Just in the last week, it's been called 57 cents and even $1 or more.
Wow.
Right? Okay.
Wow.
Let me throw a little rationale into that. Okay. If it's going to be more than $1, it means they're taking more zeros off. Okay? So it's all relative. It doesn't mean we're going to get less. It just means if the true rate is going to be something like $1 plus per Zim, it means they're going to take another zero or two off. And we've all heard in the past that it's 6 zeros or it could be 7 zeros or whatever. But the consensus right now is 6, and I agree with that. And I'm not a rate guy. I don't talk about rates. But it's definitely more than 3 cents. It's definitely less than, say, 35 cents. And if it's higher than that, it just means they're taking a zero off. And but it equates back to the same kind of rate. You know what I mean? It's just math, right? It's just how many zeros or whatever. But remember, if you're holding a trillion, if you're holding the trillion series, like the 50 trillion or the 100 trillion, then you take so many zeros off and it's X number of cents. If you're holding the billion denomination, like the 10 billion or 50 billion or whatever, then it's still going to be the same effective rate. It just means you're taking fewer zeros off. It's just kind of the complex kind of math. It's really not complicated. It's just the bottom line is there's a number. You're going to get X amount for your Zim, and I can tell you we're all going to be pretty happy with that.
Okay, that's good.
All right.
Now, as far as the 100 million, are they going to take that for face value? What do you think?
The 100 million note.
Yeah.
Okay. So if they say it's 11 cents on 100 trillion minus 6 zeros. I got to be careful what I say here. All right. Okay, so if you have a 100 trillion note and the rate is 11 cents, they're going to take 6 zeros off of that, and you get 11 cents for the rest, which means your 100 trillion note is worth $11 million.
11 million, right? Now,
okay. If you have a 100 million note, you're just going to get the 11 cents. There's no zeros taken off, so it's all the same.
I got you.
Okay?
I got you. Okay.
All
right. Now, my last question, I promise. Now, the bonds, do you know anything about the bonds? Have they been released yet? I think they call it the historical bonds.
Oh, my gosh. I'm asking the same question because the historical bonds are supposed to be being redeemed. They're going along right with what I call the high-level groups, the private placement programs on the currency side. There's two sides to the GCR, the bonds and the currency. And, it's like debt and equity, right? It's like are you buying a bond or you're buying a stock, is equity or debt. So the bond side should be executing, but here's the interesting thing. All of my sources on the bond side have all gone completely black over the last couple of days, right? Okay. And all of the high-level currency, equity, private placement sides have all gone black over the last couple of days. So well, you read into that because I know how I'm reading into that, right? So it's I think that's all coming. And if you read some of the stuff that just came out today, just tonight, I'm getting texts and I'm getting things as we do this call. Things are lighting up, and like I said in the beginning of this call, we are absolutely in this process now. It's executing as we speak. It's just going through the different buckets. That's where we are, right? And the bonds are one of the buckets.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. You've answered my questions. I do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Area code 603. 603. Can you hear us? Are you there? There we go. No?
No.
Okay. Well, moving on. Area code 314.
Yes. Hi. How you guys doing?
Great. What's your first name?
David.
Hello, David.
Yes, that's very nice to talk to you. Two questions. International tax treaties will require some tax. Do you know what that tax will be?
You mean the rate?
Well, not the rate. There's going to be a tax on the exchange, but it goes to international treaties, right? Not the IRS.
Correct.
That's for sure. Do you know what that rate will be?
So it is a rate. All right, yeah.
No. The rate of the tax.
The tax. Exactly. No, that's what I meant by the rate. Sorry, my mistake. Yeah, when you said the international tax, and when I said rate, I meant tax rate. Call it between 17.5 and 18.2% flat.
And that's what they take off the top.
Flat. Yep.
Okay, so you don't have a choice in that. That's done automatically.
Well, do you want to pay capital gains?
Absolutely not.
Exactly. Yeah, and the fact that it's not going to the IRS. All right, I'll clarify. When I say the IRS, I mean the IRS as we know it today, right? There could obviously what's repatriated and exchanged in the United States is going to go to, the sovereign side of this on the United States, and I'm talking about the true organic constitutional United States, not what we have today. But so it's not, people on the inside know that when you pay money to the IRS as it is today, the IRS it's not going to the American people. It's not really doing anything. It's going off to other types of nefarious.
Yeah, it goes into Puerto Rico, and then it goes to.
It goes to England, the Crown. It goes to the Vatican Bank, and all that stuff. So we're not going to. Yeah. Besides that,
now,
the
sir,
flat tax that's going to go to humanitarian purposes. That's where.
Love it. Now, the Republic. Just bear with me, please.
I'm into the Republic. I'm into it. Yeah.
This is such an important thing that we would have a Republic back. Are you just pulling my leg or what? Because this is a dream of mine that I've held on to, that we would truly get a Republic.
Yep.
How is this going to be? And will Obama come back from Hawaii?
All right, I do not get involved in politics, not what I call our current 3D politics. All right.
All right.
Okay, all humor aside, Obama, just like every other president, has been a puppet. He's thrown out there. The current president's thrown out there for you to love or you to hate, and that's part of the plan, right? We all divide amongst ourselves, arguing about this guy, that guy, and whatever, while the true controllers of the fiat system and the debt matrix just do what they do with anonymity, and we don't know about it because we're too busy arguing over this guy and that guy, and conservative or liberal or Republican or Democrat and all of that. But yes, I'm with you. When I first started researching and making contacts into the Republic side, what we call the Republic, I was like, this can't be true. This is too good to be true. Forget the GCR and the currencies, but this is more important.
Exactly.
Right? This is more important to me, right? And
we're talking about freedom.
Yeah. Yes, sovereignty. And I can tell you it's very real, but I can also say that, we're going to find out very soon here if it's going to be announced publicly, where it's going to make a real, kind of a shock to the system, so to speak. The window is between now and the end of the year, which, it's about 5 days from now. And or it will be phased in and announced along with the other parts of the global currency and global financial reset to, what we call the public announcements.
Right.
From January on in, right? There's a lot of speculation out there right now when they're going to announce, if there's going to be, I know you've probably seen this letter from the interim president of the Republic that's been circulated all over the place right now. I have some questions about that, which I'm not getting answers to at this point. But the Republic is real, all right? And we're going to see some major changes. The question is are they going to be phased in over a period of time, or is it going to just hit everyone at once, which creates the most amount of chaos? That's my concern on
Will
that.
Will there be an educational program?
Yes, there will. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I've even seen parts of that educational program.
Okay. One last question. Oftentimes, not often, but there are times you guys mention angelic type entities.
Yep.
Michael, the archangel, is that a literal thing?
Oh.
Or is that a surname? Or
we'll go literal. So, yeah, now we're getting into multi-dimensional stuff, and this is where I really wish Deb was here. So I'm filling some big shoes here, and I
understand that.
Yeah.
But I'm a novice, so it's okay.
Yeah. So fundamentally, the reason Deb and I work so well together and what we're creating on our site and everything else is really, coming together rapidly and being quite successful beyond our dreams, but we knew that it would happen this way, is because I have a bridge from the scientific side and the economic side moving up to the more multidimensional side, and Deb comes from the multidimensional side and kind of moves down to this side, and that's why we work so well together. So what I'm going to say about that is I root all of this, what people describe as magic or spiritual or whatever. It really is the fundamental bridge between here and there is a quantum type of energetic exchange, and we can go into how different particles at a subatomic level.
I understand, but why
now? Two dimensions at the same time. So entities or beings that we would call Michael, and now my name is Sean Michael, and I very much identify with Archangel Michael, right? And I was raised in that and that type of thing. But I also understand that we are communicating with higher forms of ourself and everything else related to that via a quantum field. When Deb says a unified field, we're talking about quantum mechanics and that type of thing. And there are absolutely aspects of ourselves that are outside of time and space and these kinds of things. So when we identify with Michael and they're absolutely real in my assessment. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here right now, right? So it's, but yeah, and they have access to information, and they can provide insight into a lot.
Does this negate a spiritual view of God, what we've learned throughout our life?
Absolutely not. No, I don't believe that for a second. I think that there has been certain aspects of our spirituality or our connection to what what you would call religion that have been perverted and used to the advantage of the few to control the many. Absolutely. I don't think anybody could disagree with that. But it doesn't change our fundamental aspect with God or a creator. There's a massive creative force that has created everything around us, including our own physicality and that. But we have a soul, what I consider to be an energetic aspect of ourselves that exists in this. I don't want to get too scientific and all of these kinds of things, and I'd love to have this conversation with you offline. But
I wish you would.
Most people, like the chair they're sitting on, they're like, that's a solid chair, but it's not. We never actually touch the chair. We don't. It's just molecules energetically reacting with, and it's physical, right? So we have
kind of like
for ourselves.
Kind of like if the tree falls in the forest and nobody's around, do you hear it?
Yep. So there's no disagreement with the concept of God or the concept of a creator or the concept of a mother and father, universal force, or any of that type of thing.
Why now?
Yep. But now it's big, and you notice. I mean, did you notice? I don't know if you saw this. All right, sorry, Jennifer. I'm going to get into this now, right? But
okay.
But my question is, why now?
Why now?
Why this?
I'll tell you why
this
now,
intervention? Why this intervention now?
All this stuff is happening now, and the GCR is the manifestation of the first wave of what's coming, right? And there's absolutely a combination of spiritual and physical, meaning 3D, financial, whatever you want to call it. There's a juncture of those things happening, but the next things that are coming. And I just want to ask you, I just saw the new Star Wars movie last night, right? And I got in and did the whole thing. And then for the first time, they're calling it the light, whereas all the other Star Wars films, when they called it the good side of the force, they said there's good in him. No, there's still good in him. And in the movie I saw, the latest, is there's still light in him. They called it the light, the force of the light. And do you think this is by mistake? No way, right? I mean, they changed it from the good to the light. And there was a very definite reason for that. So all of this is happening right now. It's connected. There are good guys everywhere. I know people think Hollywood is evil, a lot of people and all that, but there are a lot of good guys in Hollywood, and they're putting this stuff out. There are a lot of good guys in the financial side that are putting this stuff out. There are a lot of good guys in government that are working to help. The GCR would not be possible without good guys in government, in the IMF, in the BIS, in the U.S. Treasury, and all of these things. We would not be able to do what we're about to do with these exchanges if it wasn't for those guys. So, that's why it's happening now, because we are in this time.
Well, I'll close with this. If there is light, what is the darkness?
Yeah. Well, we live in what's called 3D, right? I mean, physicality. Yeah. If you go to any scientific site, I don't care where it is, they'll talk about dimensions and that type of thing. We cannot exist in this dimension without having an up or a down or a light or a dark or an in or an out. We can't have it. It doesn't exist. We wouldn't exist if there wasn't an in and out, up and down, a here or a there, right? So the bottom line is the key we're learning here is the balance of all those things. You can't say that we're getting rid of the dark, because if we're still here in physicality, in the three-dimensional physicality, there has to be a dark. Otherwise, there could not be a light. It just cannot exist. There's no context. There's no reference. If we only had light, then we're not in 3D. We're in 5D, 6D, 7D, or whatever. But if there was only dark, then we'd be, down in the sub-dimensions and the low vibration, low frequency. So what we're learning here and what we're bringing in the shift and the bridging is the transition from recognizing that we don't any longer live in only a dark controlled environment. We're bridging and we're going over and we're learning how to balance all of the things in our current dimension. And
so with this light and the light workers that have been aforementioned, has there been contact by you or Deb?
Contact by
direct contact.
Yes.
Okay. I'm asking
David?
some difficult
David,
trouble.
you're asking some beautiful questions, and we feel the perfection of your intent and the purity of your heart, and I would really like to urge you to join the community at wakingupwithdeb.com, where you will find people of the same mind that you can openly discuss this with.
Yep.
Well, if you would call me and we could talk just a little bit more at some point in time, I would greatly appreciate
I understand.
it.
Yeah, Jennifer has your number. Yeah, so that's 2, Jennifer, right now?
Yes.
So I can
Yes.
do this. Right. Okay. Yeah.
Thank
Absolutely.
you, David.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, our next caller is from area code 972.
Hi, this is Gloria. Just quickly, my question was answered several times, but I was just grateful for everything I've learned tonight, and I just want to say thank you.
Oh, great. Okay, thank you.
Oh, thank you
Okay.
so much. And
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Just wanted to mention that Deb wants to give a quick shout-out as she leaves the airport in San Francisco, sending her love.
Oh, really?
On the way to Sydney, yes.
All right.
Just real quick. Okay, area code 626.
Hey, how you doing? This is James.
Hi, James.
Hi. I have an irrevocable trust with me and a parent as the settler and the beneficiary.
Okay.
But we each also have individually a living trust that both owns 50% of an LLC. So my question is, and we're both, well, at least I got one email for G64. So my question is, how many, I wanted to put a little bit of money in the LLC that's tied into the other trust, plus another business that we have, but the bulk of it into the irrevocable trust. Is that possible, or do I need to have an appointment for each entity?
Okay, I'm going to try to understand the structure you just explained, but maybe I don't. So what is the overarching, do you have one overarching entity, or are they all kind of been established at different times and you put different things in? Can you go into any more detail?
Yeah, before I got the irrevocable trust earlier this year, we had both already had living trusts individually, and there's an LLC that we own in Wyoming that's split 50-50 between there, and then he has an LLC just with him in it, and I also have one for another business.
All right, so let me ask the key question. Yeah, the key question is where are your currencies held? Which entity?
Well, when I got the irrevocable trust earlier this year, the way it's stated is anything that I own and am buying from here on out goes to there. But my
okay. I'm not a trust attorney, but did you create meeting minutes between the trustees that accepted those assets?
Just basically had a sheet notarized to that effect, yeah.
All right, so you actually created a document that stated that we are now accepting into the trust these assets from the grantor, right?
But I don't have them itemized, right? I don't have it itemized. It's kind of a lump. Maybe that's what I should do, actually.
Yes, you need to do that, my friend. You should do that. I think it's okay from a macro level, but if you ever get audited or anything and you're going to have to provide details, you're going to want that paper trail, okay? So, yeah, so just you don't have to go into every little transaction, but you just want to say, as of now, the trustees recognize that from the grantor, we have accepted these assets into the irrevocable trust. The other things that you mentioned about the LLC and the other type of entities, I don't know the structure between that. But the key thing is if your goal is to protect assets, you want all the assets in the irrevocable trust, and then the irrevocable trust can place them into the other entities like the LLCs and things of that nature. But you want, if your goal is asset protection, you want those assets in the irrevocable trust. But I'm not a trust attorney, so this is not.
So would that be pre-RV that the irrevocable trust gave these other LLCs that form of currency?
Well, okay. I'm going to think through this here for a second. If your goal is protection of assets, an LLC...
I'm going to have quite a bit. I mean,
right? Yeah, me too.
We've been putting a lot into this.
I'm with you.
But I want to put a little bit into this business, a little bit into that business.
Right. I would first and foremost lock up all of your key assets into the irrevocable trust. And then once this happens and these currencies are actually worth a lot, then transfer the amount you want to do businesses with, like with your LLC, then have the irrevocable trust move them into those LLCs as an investment, like capitalization and things of that nature, and do it that way. But you always want to start, if your goal, and this is what I'm stressing, if your goal is asset protection, the irrevocable trust is the absolute best way to do that. And then from your LLC and your business's point of view, and whatever you want to do from there on out comes from the irrevocable trust down into those entities.
After RV, you're saying?
After RV. But if you don't want let me just say this. If you have your currencies in LLC right now and you're going to go exchange, then all those assets are now with that LLC, and they're vulnerable in terms of asset protection, right?
Got it.
So, you're right. So if you can and you have the ability to do so, I would move the currency assets into your irrevocable trust, have your irrevocable trust execute the exchanges, and then move the assets, whatever you want from there.
And then I could actually loan to the other LLCs or whatever.
Yes, you can do whatever you want to do at that point, right? But you've protected your assets in the irrevocable trust. Yep.
Okay. And is Zim previously, oh my God, I forgot his name, Bruce, had said that he didn't think Wells was going to take the Zim. Has that changed now?
I'm going to be very general in my answer to that question. The Zim is very real. The Zim is being exchanged. The Zim has a lot of value, and Wells Fargo is involved. That's all I'm going to say. Okay?
Last quick question. If you had 10, 20 grand in your lap right now, would you buy silver, dinar, dong, Zim, or real?
Oh, you threw silver in there, but that's really not a currency, right? I mean, it's an overarching currency. I know.
You never know. In 2016, it may.
Yeah. What I would do
with the others.
Yeah, I would invest in some of these currencies. I am not okay. This is what I would do. All right, I got to keep saying this. This is what I would do because I've done it, right? Because I have silver and I have other things, and what I would do is I would invest in the currencies because they have a big ROI right now, and then as soon as the exchanges happen, then I would go into I'm very clear on what my investment goals are. I invest in precious metals for security because they are the ultimate currency, right? They are transnational. They are recognized in every country, everywhere around the world. Silver is silver, gold is gold, period. Yep. Palladium is palladium, right? So
silver's held its value for 2,000 years.
Yeah. Nobody has ever lost money that is invested in gold, right? It's only its value versus the fiat currencies that changes, right? So I would do the currencies, do the exchanges, and then do a certain percentage into the precious metals because when the global financial reset happens, which is above the macro, the bigger picture in the GCRs is a smaller picture, silver may go way up, but it may not. I don't know, but it's not going to lose any of its intrinsic value ever, just like gold, right? And silver is absolutely manipulated today, as you know, right? Its value is totally manipulated against fiat currencies, but its true intrinsic value has never changed. It's just what they set it at is what they set it at, and that's going to change in the financial reset. But I would go for right now the currencies, and then switch that into a portfolio that has gold, silver, and other types of stuff as investments for future purposes.
Are any of the currencies more solid than the other, like, say, dinar or?
In terms of ROI?
Well,
all right.
Well, we know that the dong or the zim would be actually the best, but
yep, they are.
It seems like the dinar is actually kind of.
The dinar is solid.
Right.
I think the dinar is going to be one of the few 100% gold-backed currencies. That's my opinion. But all of them are going to do a good ROI, and then after the ROI into your current currency, which I would assume is the U.S. dollar or the USN when it happens, then you can put in your portfolio silver and gold and those types of things. That's what I'm going to do. Yep.
All right. Well, thanks a lot. I appreciate your help.
Thank you.
You have a good night now.
You too.
Okay, Sean, it's 8:50.
All right.
You want to wrap it up?
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
All right.
Yep.
We're going to go ahead and close Q&A.
All right. I'll close with the comments is that if you're curious or you want to know more about how you can engage with future humanitarian programs, projects, or basically from a community point of view is how we're going to move forward after the exchanges happen, please engage with our community or, in reaching out to other people that can share ideas with you that you resonate with. Come to New Earth Global Community. I never know if it's /wakingupwithdeb.com or that kind of thing, but if you type in New Earth Global Community, you'll find it, register, and we are proactively engaging with what we're going to do after the GCR. I believe we're one of the few sites and communities that are really going to be around after all of this happens, and that's why we're setting it up. So please join us and engage with us, and we're really going to be doing a lot of very positive things in bridging the gap between the old system and the new system and making a real tangible difference for humanity as we go forward. I'm already considering this a done deal. I'm engaged with the community, obviously, and I'm going to be a big part of that. And as is Deb and Jennifer and Heather, and forgive me, there's Scott, right? If Scott is still on in Australia right now. And maybe we ruined the surprise by saying that Deb is en route to Australia. Okay, Scott, sorry about that, but don't tell Deb we said that. Yeah. And we're all about proactive engagement in making this new Earth reality a reality. And so please engage with us and become a part of the solution. And it all rests with us. We are the ones we are waiting for. And thank you for everyone being on the call and going the distance. And I think it's been a great session, a great show tonight. What do you think, Jennifer?
Great call, Sean. Will we be back again next Sunday?
Oh, my gosh, next Sunday. I think, we might all be anticipating some very interesting activities come next Sunday down at the at the last levels of all this. But until I say otherwise and Deb agrees and whatever, we'll do another call next Sunday because I think there's going to be a lot to talk about. Yep.
Great. I'd like to thank IQD Calls and our friends at Stage 3 Alpha and our beloved Gladiator site for posting our calls. And thank you, Sean. Very memorable evening. All our beautiful participants and our callers with their great questions. We hope you had a very Merry Christmas. And Happy New Year, everyone.
Yes, great New Year and a very, very enriched New Year. Hint, hint, hint. Thank you.
Woo-hoo.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Jennifer, for getting me through this without Deb and filling the shoes that are very large, right? So, and getting
very
this done.
welcome. Wonderful job, Sean. Thank you so much. Good night, everyone.
All right.
Is anybody listening? Does anybody hear what I say? Is my body dreaming? Are we going the same way? I believe we can turn this world around. I believe we can mend what ties we break. Inside of me now.
Developed as they would lead you to believe. Some are and some are not. If you are not technically aware of how these work, or if you don't have a technical background in electromechanics or even rodent coils or field energy generators, if it's all mumbo-jumbo to you, probably you should not try to be directly involved in that, because the folks that are maybe not so far along or maybe not so integrity-minded will be happy to take your money and then produce nothing that really works in the end. And I believe if we're going to take the time on changing this world and creating the new earth, as Deb and I talk about so frequently, and being a proactive, engaged part of this shift to the new earth, where we move from greed-driven activities or debt, slavery, and a place of lack and a place of survival mode. We want to transition that. Find the things that resonate with you, that maybe you know something about, or something that you can directly oversee and see the results without having to just put your money with someone that you hope can do what they say they can do. So with that in mind, the site that Deb and I have set up and we continue to build, which we talk about quite a bit, New Earth Global Community.com. We are a very proactive site. We are going to begin a campaign where we call it a no-lurking zone or a no-lurker zone. We want everyone who's registered on that site to begin to participate. And as a matter of fact, when everybody signed up and registered for the site, we asked 3 questions. And those 3 questions are kind of like your commitment to engage, right? And you had to say yes to those questions to become a member. And so now we will begin to move forward with that commitment. And we're going to set up various areas where people can identify with types of projects or humanitarian efforts that resonate with them. And our goal is to be a conduit. Again, we're all about bridging from the old to the new, from the feeling or from the status of lack and survival mode to the status of wealth and abundance and proactivity in creating the new earth. We are the ones we've been waiting for. So the site has really always been conceptualized and set up to be a community, and a community that will begin proactive activities and engagement to bridge the old to the new. And in that theme and that mission statement, if you will, we are this week going to start opening up sections on that site that allow people to start moving and identifying, hey, I kind of like free energy area. I know something about that, or at least I'm an electrical engineer, or I've got a strong technical background, or orphans or agriculture or that type of thing. And we will begin to bridge the gap and bring other people in that are actually working in those areas. And again, this is all about community, and we take the word community very seriously, where we will interact and engage in taking definitive steps to move in that direction, so that we have a resource. If we choose to do that, if we want to know more about certain areas, we'll be able to find people on our site. Now, there are other sites doing something similar. Certainly there are humanitarian project sites out there, and they're all fine. But we're going to do our thing as well, because I believe there's no shortage, no lack where in the number of projects that need to be handled. And quite frankly, many people are asking, I want to help, but I want to make sure it's the best help and the most effective help. Where can I go to even start doing that? And that's what we're going to be doing on our site, and we're starting that as we speak. All right, so that kind of prefaces the topics in the show. Of course, this is open to any topic and discussion around the GCR. All are welcome. So, Jennifer, why don't we move to the phones?
Okay, Sean, great job. We only have 4 people in the queue so far, so anyone who would like to ask a question, please start picking your phone.
Okay.
You'll automatically be added.
Don't be afraid to ask questions, folks.
He doesn't bite very hard. Okay, we'll put it that way. Our first caller is from area code 240. Please give us your first name. 240. Hello?
240.
Okay,
maybe
we'll go back.
Yeah, we'll come back. Maybe they're muted. Yeah.
Okay. Area code 484.
Hey, Sean.
Hello, 484.
Hey, Sean. How you doing?
Good.
It's Lawrence from Pennsylvania. I had 2 questions for you.
Okay.
First question, I've been trying to figure out what's the real difference between a currency RV and the currency doing the GCR?
Okay. Can you expand on that a little bit? Meaning,
I know that Iraq is RVing, and I'm pretty sure that Iran is RVing, but I was
to free us all from the fiat debt system. So we're in that process. It does take some time, but the key is we're not waiting for it to start anymore. It has started, and not have to take my word for it. I always suggest doing your homework. I always suggest doing research. And you don't have to go very far for you to see on many of the boards and many of the other Intel-like sites, I think just about every single person that has one of these sites is telling you right now that we are in the process. It started a week, 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, and it's slowly making its way down through that logistical bucket of funds change, and it will ultimately end up, depending on which group you're in and which level, and for most of us here, if not all of us, but most of us are in what we would call the internet groups, which includes different areas like G64, like Wells Fargo, like, I'll just say it, leave it at that. And that is the last level, and it's not last because that's a non-important level or it's got far less interest or importance in this scheme. Actually, it's one of the most important because it's going to reach the most people at that level. But that's exactly why it is the last level of the funding logistical chain, because at the bottom of that logistical chain is where the most people are. And the logistics in that side requires exchange centers to be fully manned, security to be on call to make sure you're safe when you bring your currency in and you do your business. So it requires a lot of manpower and a lot of expense, and there are many exchange centers that we've all heard of all across the United States, and there are others in other countries. So that's the last step because it's the biggest step. It involves the most number of people by far. The higher groups, the groups that are above the internet group level, are pretty much, they're smaller groups. They have larger amounts of currency, and some of them have already sent their currencies in, that type of thing. Others are holding their currency, but they're in that group and they've already been tabulated, and the amounts of currency are known, and they'll do that. It's just simply a matter of efficiency, in my opinion. I'm not one of the planners or architects of the GCR, but it makes complete sense to me and to several others that I confer with, that the way this process is unfolding is simply which currencies can we get done the quickest. So that would be the more organized, higher level groups where more information is known up front, and it's simply a matter of conducting the transactions and that type of thing. And then at the end, where the internet group is, very, very large numbers of people that all have to go and get appointments, and that's the biggest transfer at that point into each of the individual accounts. All right, so that's where we are. To the best of my knowledge, the process took a break over Christmas, which is exactly as I reported. It would probably go down even as long as 2 weeks ago. I was not popular when I stated that I do not see much possibility that the final groups would go before Christmas, in spite of lots of information out there saying it's going to go down on the 23rd, it's going to go down on the 24th, we're going to go through Christmas, that type of thing. Well, here we all are. So the process, I'm expecting the process to, from my information, re-engage in a very active manner starting tomorrow, Monday. It's still at what I would call the higher group level, and those will execute and get to their completion. And about the time of the completion or shortly after the completion, I do not know how many mid-level groups are out there and how many people are in them, but we expect that to be in earnest this week. And that's, if you go out and do your research and you look at the other boards, that's all kind of corroborating that fact. I believe even Gap said tonight we're in the middle of it, so right in the middle. So everyone have patience, take heart, as I say. We're not waiting for the process to start. It has started, and now we're just waiting for, we're in a store, a retail store, they ordered something, and we're waiting for it to arrive at the store so we can pick it up. That's pretty much the best analogy I can give. So that brings us to today. I expect it to be a very active week, and I'm very optimistic that things are going to go pretty quickly. Then we hit another holiday and a weekend, New Year's Day on Friday. Banks are not open. Could they open for this event? They could. Nobody knows. That's one of the closely kept secrets. But certainly I would expect that shortly in the new year, the first few weeks of the new year, the rest of this will be, flowing nicely. And all of this is what I call the private side of the GCR exchanges. I firmly believe, and I will continue to maintain this belief, we are all a private group. We're just at different levels, depending on where we got in, who we knew, how we got in, that type of thing. But even at now we can use the logistical supply chain of a retail store and its suppliers, much like what is going on right now within the REE GCR. The ultimate end of that logistical supply chain is us receiving the notifications and going in to make appointments for the G64 or the Wells Fargo group or the internet group. They're all pretty much similar at that level, and that's really what matters to us. So many people do not want to know about the supply chain, or when certain of us kind of information gatherers use the term we're in the logistical phase or logistics take a little time. That's what we're talking about. And in this case, there are multiple, for those that read messages from people like Zap or listen to the Lambda China Global conference calls or listen to other conference calls, we hear things referred to as the matrix funds or the world global settlement accounts or the trust for humanity or the humanitarian trust fund. All of these are, think of them as very large buckets of money, of valuable currencies, right? Just money. So they're very large buckets, and then there are spigots or faucets around each of these buckets, these very, very large buckets, and they have to be opened, and they fill other buckets that are somewhat smaller. And then on those buckets, there are more faucets that get opened up and fill even smaller buckets. And the smallest bucket is the one that we all care about. That's the one that represents our bank account when we exchange our currencies or redeem our currencies or become redeemed for our historical bond, loose bonds, if you're into that area of this global reset, financial reset. That last bucket that gets filled, envision that as your bank account, your personal bank account, or your entity bank account, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And the logistical process that we're in right now is exactly the faucets being opened from the larger buckets, the largest of the large buckets, down to the large buckets, then down to the medium-sized buckets, and then down to the small buckets, which is all of us. And that doesn't happen. There is no metaphorical big button that somebody somewhere in the mysterious realms of the global currency reset, there's no big red button that somebody just pushes and instantaneously all this happens. Anyone who's familiar with banking infrastructure and banking processes understands that when money is transferred from throughout the banking infrastructure, when it goes from bank to bank, there are other banks involved, intermediary banks, then they go to another bank, and then it goes into your account type of thing. And even today, if you were to wire $25,000 to another person's bank account, it's going to take a couple of days. It is not instantaneous. If it goes from one bank to a different separate bank. It's shorter if it's just an intra-bank transfer, meaning whoever you're sending money to has an account at the same bank. That's pretty much same day type of thing. If you get it done before, say, 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning, it's usually executed. Now, extrapolate that out to something much bigger. We're not talking about wiring $1,000 from one bank to another. You know, you're literally talking about, I safely use the word trillions and trillions of dollars, but it could be quadrillions if you take into account all the money that's required to back our current fiat currencies, which are the currencies that are backed with nothing, the ones we have today. And we've talked about the fiat currency system being dismantled in a previous show at great depth. If you want to know more about that, go back and listen to, I think it's either show 2 or show 3, dismantling the fiat system. So we're in that logistical process, and when very large amounts of money have to go from the big buckets, the huge buckets, down to the medium-sized buckets, there are many, many signatures required by the very top levels of each bank, each region of the bank, everybody. It's called covering your you-know-what. That has to be checked and rechecked, and we want that because that is part of the security process that these funds get to where they eventually matter to us, and that's into our individual bank accounts for our currency exchanges. And we are in the midst of that process right now. There is an order to this, as we've talked about many times. It starts with what are called the high-level groups. The very, very, very large buckets are the sovereign level type of things. Actually goes higher than that to the trustees and the managers, if you will, of the World Global Settlement Funds, the Matrix Funds, and we've talked about this in past shows as well, where they come from. the historical gold and the assets that have been collected throughout the centuries, which are always intended for humanity, and we just happen to be today in the time when finally those funds, those gold assets are going for a massive humanitarian fund.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Let's Talk RV GCR in the Great Shift with Deb and Sean. Tonight is episode 5. After the GCR and RV exchanges, what's the plan? Our host, Deborah Peach, will not be on the call tonight. She's in the air as we speak on her way home to Australia to celebrate New Year's with her beloved husband, Scott. So I'd like to introduce our host, our full-time host this evening, formerly known as Awaken 3D, Mr. Sean Michael. Okay, Sean, can you hear me?
Yes. Am I there now?
There we go.
All right.
Good evening and welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, I had some phone issues. It seemed to have had me on mute. I could hear you, but nobody could hear me, so I called back in. So.
Perfect. We're all set. The queue is filling up. They're lining up for Q&A.
All right. Well, we're probably going to get the Q&A pretty quickly tonight, so I imagine there's going to be a pretty good discussion around the topics we have here. I just want to try one more time my headset to see if you can hear me, because then I can, get on the keyboard and be on the PC and talk at the same time. Hold on. All right. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Sounds good. Take it away.
Okay, welcome everyone. Thanks for being on the call. I realize we're right in between Christmas and New Year's, so a lot of people are still out and about, traveling and doing what they do this time of year. So it's great that you could be here and join us for this important discussion this evening. And also, what I probably will do is let's just kind of do a quick update on what's transpired over the last week since our last call on Sunday. And for those of you that are not on our community site, the New Earth community site yet, I guess the bottom line is not much has changed since last Sunday. There were definite activities. It's no secret now, and I do not give out confidential information that I might have that's not out there in some form or manner, either in other kind of like GCR sites on the internet and that type of thing. Usually the word I have so I can talk about things, or if it's gotten out there already, then I can usually expand on that, which provides some more details and background. Other information, I appreciate if everyone understands. I can't answer certain questions as they may compromise either sources or myself in this process. So last week we discussed that the process is absolutely happening. And what do I mean by the process? I'm a stickler for details. We've all heard many things over this past weeks. It's happening tomorrow. The December 23rd looks great for things to happen. All right, there's been a lot of that out there over the past week, and it's all true. But the question that many of you have and that I receive many times is, well, when the dates that are called out for it to happen or something big to happen come and go, and yet we do not have, when I say we, I mean folks in the G64 group or the internet group, what I call Greater Dinar Land, which are the people that actually pay attention and are looking at the various Dinar Land information sites on the web and participating in other conference calls on this subject matter. Dates come and dates go, and then there's the usual emotional drawbacks from, okay, why didn't it happen? So I'm a stickler for details, and as I try to explain in various places, when you get the word that it looks good to go down tonight, what does the word it mean? All right. Many times some of the information that's disseminated out within our land and the communities and the various chat sites and conference boards are pieces of information that the poster, the person who put that information out, receives, and either they have more information than they're saying, or they only received that piece saying, it looks good for things to go down tonight or tomorrow or by the 23rd or by the 24th or even on Christmas Day or these types of things. And I always ask the question, what is it? What is that something that's happening? Because as I've been saying many, many times, this is a process. It's a logistical chain. It's like a supply chain. If you know what a supply chain is, a retail store, what brings all the goods that are and wares that are in the store. If you knew what goes on behind the scenes to get those items on the shelves at the store, all the way back to the actual company that manufactures those goods, that's called a logistical supply chain. The smallest or the last level, which is the greatest number of people. I firmly believe these are all private transactions, which is why we're getting appointments, right? If it was public, then we'd just be able to call up anywhere and go in and exchange our currencies and that type of thing, but that's not going to be the case. And in my book, by definition, that's a private transaction. So, and then we wait for the public. And the public part is really about the announcements of gold-backed currencies, the announcements of changes in the banking system, even potentially announcements around changes within government and things of that nature. Here in the U.S., what's been called the Republic. And that's where the fun really gets going. And we'll talk more about that in later shows. So that's pretty much my update. And now I'd like to move on to our topic of this evening, which is specifically, it's not too soon to start thinking about what you're going to do after you do the exchange. Many of us, I'm happy to know, are, I would say, a vast majority of people in the GCR who are invested with currencies all plan on some level of pay-it-forward activities, humanitarian projects on many different levels and many different activities, be it from orphans to veterans to building infrastructure to rejuvenating small town or medium-sized town economies, and on and on and on, providing water, food, improving our agriculture system, getting away from the dependence on the pharmaceutical companies who have no interest in curing our disease, only in treating them so that we're a constant bank account for them. And getting in other topics like desalinating water and new technologies, be it free energy or highly efficient energy that gets us off of the fossil fuel system, oil, coal, natural gas, you name it, medical breakthroughs, all kinds of things. And this is to be commended to all of you out there that are going to do this. But what I found in my interaction, I speak to many people every week and receive many emails and posts on the site that I'm on and private messages and whatnot. A lot of people are still, they want to do some things, but they're not really sure how to do it. They're not really sure what's the best way. Many are asking questions about what do I do with this money when I have it, in terms of should I put it into a trust? Should I have a trust now before I exchange? Should I put it into, even if I can't afford to do a trust before the exchange, should I take the time and effort to set up a trust? I want to do a charitable foundation. Some people want to start companies and operate from there. So it's not too soon to start discussing this, and then how to even engage with the various humanitarian projects or efforts or pay it forwards that we're all planning on doing. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. The bottom line is I'll take your questions coming up real soon here on all of these topics, but one thing I wanted to say before we open up the phone lines is in my opinion, it's very good to take some time right now and over these next few days, over the holidays, and do some soul searching, as we would say, and what are you passionate about? If you wanted to engage in a humanitarian activity, pay it forward activity, what really resonates with your heart? Let your heart lead you to that. What's your heart's desire? I actually like that's the best way to phrase it. What's your heart desire? It's like if you could wake up every day and go to a job that you absolutely love, you don't even think you're going to work. You love what you do, right? What is that? And there is your answer to how to begin focusing on your post-GCR, after your exchange type of activity. It's perfectly okay to follow what you feel you can do. But many people are thinking, I can just spread the money around to all these different areas. Like I'll put some money in free energy to some people that have that going. I can put some money into new agricultural technologies that grow healthy food much quicker and in areas that it normally doesn't grow today with those technologies. I can pump it into desalination projects. I can help charities. What I would suggest is because there are so many people that are going to benefit from the coming exchanges, that pretty much all of these areas are going to be helped. So it's not like any of us have to worry that if I don't do something with orphans, it's not going to help. But if helping orphans or helping veterans is something that's deeply passionate with you or resonating, then I would focus on that. If you don't understand anything about free technologies, and I can tell you right now, I know this for a fact, some free technologies or free energy technologies are not nearly as